Don't you fall for it. Don't you fall for it. Keep your head up, never let them get you fed up. You just step up, get your rep up, get your cash up, get your check up. The whole system's a setup. It's time we really get up. We've been about this revolution from the time we met up. Take it back, I got my fists up, Malcolm X in '88. But revolution only works for those that will participate. You are great, they are fake. Yo, it's time to demonstrate higher level mental states. Conscious people congregate, show the love, not the hate. This is basic, no debate. But these people are debating and they hating, they should wait. It was bickering amongst ourselves that got us in this state. Yeah, the truth is inconvenient, but the truth is never late. You can't see what they be doing, how they thinking, how they moving. You can't see what they pursuing, making claims none are proven. Don't fall for it, don't fall for it, don't fall for it, don't fall for it. We can see who is the enemy, sovereignty's the remedy. You don't need telepathy, it's white supremacy. Don't fall for it, don't fall for it, don't fall for it, don't fall for it. Bringing the raw, doing it all. Government officials bringing the law. You never see what you never saw. 303, open the door. Knowledge reigns, that is the game. Ignorance, that is insane. Don't fall for it. The reps and the Dems are the same. This one's shooting us up. That one's locking us up. This one got us stuck. That one's out of luck. You can front if you need to. The cycle never ends. No justice, but in 4 years they hyping us again. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. If you thinking and you earning and you drinking and you burning and you really not concerning with the news and what they learning, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. If you love it, never hate it. You agree it, don't debate it. HBCU educated, your degree is highly rated. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't you fall for it. Don't fall for it. Yo, me, I'm not a fake dude. I'ma keep it real. They see through it all that America needs a heel deal. America ain't really sick. This is what it really is. Gunshots and cages for black and brown little kids. Now they acting like they not the cause of how we live. Do not tell me what you gonna do. I can see what you did. Look at her, look at him, look at them, look at me. Do you see our interests represented in society? No, you don't, and you won't, cause democracy's a joke. Every 4 years, these same people asking us to vote. Nothing changed but the Range Rover switching lanes over. I remain the flamethrower, knowledge reigns, game over. Don't fall for it, don't you fall for it. Rodney King, George Floyd, man, we all saw it. So don't protest with the fines, but don't move with self-reliance. While the soul is being silenced for the religion of science. Don't fall for it, don't you fall for it. Don't fall for it, don't you fall for it. If you thinking and you earning and you drinking and you burning and you really not concerning with the news and what they learning, don't fall for it. Don't you fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't you fall for it. There's no justice in the courts. We are always taking shorts. They can shoot us like a sport, and it's our trust that they want. Don't fall for it. Don't you fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't you fall for it. Take it up. Take it low now. Don't fall for it. Don't you fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't you fall for it.
Welcome everybody in the room. Welcome to Real Mad TV, where you always get the mad reaction, but you know the rest. Sometimes I do come in peace. What up, young man? Thank you for coming through. Forever Lisa, Mark, Leah. Seem like we can get back to our original programs of what I usually do and stuff. I didn't realize that the Congress or the Senate had a whole month off of August sitting on vacation while we going through all this bad inflation. They out there chilling on the beach. The People's Lounge, thank you for joining me today. So now that they back in rare form, you know what I'm saying, I guess we could get back to the Congress meetings. And we're gonna start off with a good one here, you know what I'm saying, as far as the topic of this one is banning books. And the bits and pieces that I have heard from this, man, this thing got very interesting, especially some of the books that they called out and the things that's in the books. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of political moves around this to try to use this in inserted into other areas to confuse the people. So when you hear about banning the books, it sounds like more like, oh, they trying to take black books out the library and all that stuff. I believe that there is certain books in that library that might need to come out after hearing this. Well, I've been hearing this most of the year, the last 2 years of stuff, but the thing is, most of the people don't really understand the deepness of a lot of these books and the reason why they trying to ban them and stuff. Salute to everybody coming into the room. I thought I saw Mookie's name. I don't see Mookie. But yeah, basically that's what it is for this one here. This one, I'm gonna try to get through this one as fast as possible and stuff, because they piling up right now. They piling up, and that means y'all will be hearing and seeing me a whole lot more. You know what I'm saying? If I knew they were taking the money off, I wouldn't have been looking so freaking hard trying to find the stuff, and I could have been doing something else. But trying to dig for stories and things like that, hey, that stuff get kind of hard. But I think I'm gonna just start reviewing whatever I just watch. I think that might be the solution, you know. But I'm not gonna sit here and have a long monologue going on with this. You know what I'm saying? Basically, it's just what it is. They're trying to ban books. But let's see what kind of books they're trying to ban. Listen to Congress present whatever arguments or, you know what I'm saying, questions they have for the participants here on the Senate floor here. So, thank you for that share, the People's Lounge. Alrighty, let me see my setup. Am I set up already? I am set up, and we can start to go. I hope this is not a music issue like I had earlier. I was doing some uploads earlier. It had some music issues there.
Liberty and literature will come to order. In 1928, the city of Chicago banned a book known as The Wonderful Wizard of Oz from all of its public libraries. Local leaders claimed that the book would have, quote, an ungodly influence on its readers. We now consider The Wonderful Wizard of Oz to be, in the words of the Library of Congress, a timeless American classic. Unfortunately, there is a long history in our country of banning books we now consider classic works of literature. This video, which I'm about to show, will indicate this is not the first time that the Senate Judiciary Committee has considered the negative influence of books. I asked them to start the video.
If you want to know the cause of all this, here it is. It's these rotten comic books. Cut them out, and things like this would not happen.
It is my opinion, without any reasonable doubt and without any reservation, that comic books are an important contributing factor in many cases of juvenile delinquency.
A Tennessee school board has banned the critically acclaimed graphic novel Mouse. It is a true story about the horrors of the Holocaust by Art Spiegelman.
Mouse is the German word for mouse. The school board claimed it banned the graphic novel because of profanity and nudity.
I read the minutes of the school board banning Mouse. Most of the people, it was clear from their minutes, hadn't read them. You still had eyeballs and see those images, and I'm like, okay, this is a picture of nudity, so that we can prohibit. And this over here, this has a bad word. As far as I'm concerned, as long as they stop short saying, we're banning this because this history makes us uncomfortable, and we don't want our kids to be exposed to these things, they're unsafe for grabs.
This process is really unnecessary. We are professionals in our classrooms, and we know what is best for our students.
The kids want to read books. The kids in here are asking me, can I go get a book and read? And they're so excited. And I have to say no, because I haven't had a chance to go through all of them, to catalog them, to write them all down, to send off to somebody that is going to tell me, them, if they can or cannot read the books in my classroom library.
In the 1850s, Uncle Tom's Cabin, a classic anti-slavery novel, was banned throughout the southern United States. 2 decades later, in 1873, Congress passed the Comstock Act, a law that mandated up to 5 years in prison for any person who sold or distributed a book that was, quote, obscene, lewd, or lascivious. The law did not define the terms, and hundreds of Americans were convicted for distributing books about topics such as atheism and reproductive health. As a video showed, this committee itself held a series of hearings in 1954 to examine the threat that comic books like Superman posed to children. The anti-comics panic culminated in the industry's comics code that censored comic books for decades. That may seem absurd today, but extremists continue to fight popular graphic novels like Mouse and other books. In 2022, there were over 1,000 requests to ban books at public schools and libraries, the most in almost 20 years. Here are just a few of the books that have been banned or restricted in schools and libraries over the past few years. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, The Handmaid's Tale, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, A Raisin in the Sun, Brave New World, and Beloved. These are books written by some of the greatest American authors, including...
I apologize. I was trying to level off the music and his voice and stuff, you know what I'm saying? I hope it's okay, everything is not too loud and coming off, you know what I'm saying? If so, let me know in the chat.
Trailblazing black women like Toni Morrison and Maya Angelou. Even works written by Martin Luther King Jr. were banned temporarily in a fervor to limit access to books about race or racism, all in the name of prohibiting materials supposedly related to critical race theory. Let's be clear, efforts to ban books are wrong, whether they come from the right or the left. While we ban books like Mouse or To Kill a Mockingbird in the name of protecting students, we are instead denying these students an opportunity to learn about different people and difficult subjects. Limiting access to a book about anti-Semitism or racism does not protect students from the actual history or the reality that hate still exists. In the name of protecting students, politicians have targeted books that include LGBTQ+ subject matter. 1 out of every 4 banned books features LGBTQ+ characters and themes, according to PEN America. No one is advocating for sexually explicit content to be available in an elementary school library or children's section of a library. That's a distraction from the real challenge. I understand and respect that parents may choose to limit what their children read, especially
I guess it would help if I turned the mic on. But yeah, that would be an issue, having those kind of books in an elementary school. Those books shouldn't be in the school at all. Maybe the public library, but not in the public school. You know what I'm saying? That's not good.
especially at younger ages. My wife and I did, others do too. But no parent should have the right to tell another parent's child what they can and cannot read in school or at home. Every student deserves access to books that reflect their experiences and help them better understand who they are. I want to commend Senator Cornyn, who said last year, and I quote, "As a general rule, I don't favor banning age-appropriate and subject-appropriate books for children. They need to hear a diversity of views." I agree with him. That's exactly right. Unfortunately, librarians and teachers across this country who are just doing their jobs have been threatened with physical violence and criminal prosecution by a small group of zealots. These efforts to ban books violate our most cherished principles as Americans and betray our values as a nation. We must protect our students and their freedom to read and learn. With that, I hand this off to Ranking Member Graham for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if you're a parent out there listening to this hearing, I would encourage you to advocate for your child. I would encourage you to go to the school district, the library, wherever you believe is appropriate on behalf of your child. You have an obligation as a parent to lend your voice to the cause you think helps your child develop in the right way. About this hearing, what is our role here? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to take over every school board in the country and veto their decisions about what books go into public schools? In the library, I hadn't spent a lot of time in the library. That speaks poorly of me. But am I supposed to, as a United States Senator, take over the libraries of all of this country and be the final say of what goes in a library? I hope not. I think not. So this is an important hearing in this regard. It shows the difference of the two parties on this issue. School boards, whether elected or appointed in our system, should be the people we go to talk about what's in a school. A library board should be the group of people who decides what goes in a library. And if you don't like the outcome, at least you can complain. And to all the parents out there who believe there's a bunch of stuff in our schools being pushed on your children that go over the line, you're absolutely right. To governors and to local officials who want to make sure that agendas are not being pushed upon your children, you're right to speak up. In Burbank, California, some school districts banned Huckleberry Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't agree with that, but that was your right to make that decision. So what I want to leave with you, Mr. Chairman, is that we on this side, I think to a person, I understand what Senator Cornyn is saying, but he'll speak for himself in a minute. I don't think there's one person on our side of the aisle believes that we, the federal government, should be deciding these issues. And if you don't like the outcome, pick a school board you do like. And it's wrong for conservatives to try to pick school board members. It's absolutely okay for every liberal organization to destroy conservatives who make decisions they don't like. So we're not buying this. We're not going to be intimidated. To governors out there, I look to you for leadership on such issues. Some are providing it, and congratulations to you. To parents, don't give an inch on this. Speak up. Violence is never the answer. But show up, speak up. And a lot of the times the books that are being complained about by parents, you can't even read in the public hearing. And I won't read it today. But somebody needs to understand that this is a big issue for many parents in this country. And Mr. Chairman, this committee has done a lot of good work on social media reform. I like you. We worked on immigration. We can have our differences. But to me, here's what we should be talking about right now. And I'll be brief. As we talk about the federal government's role in deciding what goes in a library or a school, there's been 347% increase in illegal crossings since 2020. 183,000 people came over legally in July. We've had 146 people on the terrorist watch list. In FY22, which is about 2.4 million came across. Since President Biden's been president, 5.5 million people have come across illegally. That's bigger than the state of South Carolina. Last couple of weeks, smugglers with ISIS ties help migrants enter U.S. from Mexico, raising alarm bells. I'd like to be talking about that. And matter of fact, you can go get the classified briefing. You ought to. It will scare you. And finally, it's just not me saying these things. New York City, the mayor, is at capacity. We have no more room in the city and we need help. This is a national crisis that's begs for a national response since day one. The migrant crisis will destroy New York City. New York City will experience a financial tsunami. The mayor's right. We should be trying to find a way to fix this problem. That, to me, is the biggest priority facing this committee. And as to this panel, I'll listen, but I'll end where I started. It's not our job to decide these things. And if you're a parent, don't be intimidated.
I'd say to my colleague and friend from the state of South Carolina that we joined in a bipartisan effort a few years ago. Gang of 8, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, wrote a comprehensive immigration reform bill, which I still think in whole can be used today as a template for where we need to go. But for 30 years, Congress has failed to pass immigration reform. And as a consequence, many of the things that are happening on the border and across our nation are the result. I stand ready, and I mean it sincerely and personally, and I say this to my friend from South Carolina, to gather together for another gang of 8 or 10 or 4, whatever the number may be, to put together a comprehensive immigration reform bill. I think we both know what the likelihood of that passing in the other body is, but that shouldn't deter us from doing our duty. I'm ready to do it again. Is the publication of books an important part?
Mr. Chairman?
I'll be with you in just a second. Is the publication of books an important part of our jurisdiction? The Constitution is our jurisdiction, and the Constitution raises questions that I think will be addressed today in this hearing. Senator Cornyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out that we haven't had a markup of an immigration bill in this committee, which is the committee of jurisdiction, since the current chairman has been chairman. And even when our Democratic colleagues were in charge of both the House, the Senate, and the White House, we haven't considered any immigration bills. I think Senator Tillis joined me in a letter to you as chairman asking that we make some attempt to try to craft something that might generate bipartisan support. About 2 years ago, Senator Sinema, the senator from Arizona, and I, and also Tony Gonzalez, who represents the largest border district in the country, and Henry Cuellar, a Democrat, introduced a bipartisan, bicameral Border Solutions Act, I think we called it. And my thought was that at some point, things would get so bad that President Biden, or perhaps even our Democratic colleagues, might be prompted to actually do something instead of just talk about it. And I guess I was wrong. In the meantime, as Senator Graham points out, there have been literally millions, I think 7 million people coming across the border since President Biden was president. There have been 108,000 Americans died of drug overdoses last year alone, and we know that the fentanyl, which is taking many of our children's lives in our schools, that 71,000 of those 800,000 were synthetic opioids. We know where it comes from. We know where the precursors come from. We know where the drugs are manufactured and pressed into pills that kids take and die. And then, of course, there's the 300,000 children who've been placed with sponsors, unaccompanied children, and the Biden administration can't tell you where they are. They can't tell you whether they're going to school, whether they're getting health care. They can't tell you whether they're being trafficked for sex or forced into involuntary labor. They just can't tell you, and frankly, they don't care. Because if they did, they would want to do something about it. So I will volunteer to work with you or anybody, but it's got to be more than just talk. It's got to be action. Nobody else can do this job. We are the ones who have to do the job if it's going to get done, and so far I don't see much in the way of action.
I would just say in response that the bill we worked on with the Gang of Eight, Senator McCain, Senator Graham, and others, was a good faith bipartisan effort, which I still think has validity to this day. And it took more than just a committee hearing to achieve. It took people of goodwill trying to work together and compromise. I'm sorry that you didn't support that bill, but I think it was a bill that we ought to return to at this time. I'm ready to do that at any point. I think we need to do so.
Mr. Chairman, I take you up on that. Bring the bill forward. Let John tell.
Not even gonna lie, I just missed that whole 5 minutes. Seemed like whenever you get started doing something, everybody want to bother you. But try to catch up here, hear what's going on. Damn, yeah, I missed quite a bit there. But I can catch up. I'm pretty sure I heard most of this beginning before already.
Tell us what he doesn't like about it, how he can make it better, and let's vote. America is really in a national crisis, according to the mayor of New York City, not Lindsey Graham. This is incredibly dangerous, incredibly irresponsible. Afghanistan is now in the hands of the Taliban. The threat of terrorism against the United States is getting worse, not better. ISIS smugglers are involved in getting people into the United States. I think if you brought the Gang of Eight bill or any other bill as the base bill and have a debate on it, this committee would be well served. We could all vote, we could all amend it, and I look forward to doing that.
So let's start by having our staff take a look at the bill. What is it, 7 or 8 years now?
Count me in.
And let's update it, which I'm sure we'll have to do in some respects, and see if we can move it forward, as long as it's bipartisan.
What the hell that got to do with the damn books? I can't stand that guy, by the way. What y'all saying? Yeah, fentanyl is taking out quite a bit of people, man, and that shit is coming through very heavy at the border.
Partisan and has a chance of passing in the Senate as well as the House. I think it's a good effort.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond briefly. I can't even remember when the Gang of Eight bill was on the floor. Was that 2016? 13? Oh, 10 years ago. And it didn't pass the House. I mean, I know you are proud of that product, but unfortunately, it didn't pass the House. And of course, as we all know from Schoolhouse Rock, a bill becomes a law when it passes both chambers of Congress and gets a presidential signature. So forgive me for saying this, but that bill failed to succeed. I know you're proud of it, but that was also at a different time than we're in now. And before the Biden border crisis became so dire. And I think there's a different dynamic. Certainly there's a Republican House. They're not going to take up and pass a Gang of Eight bill. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. So forgive me, but when you keep talking about the Gang of Eight bill as somehow being the gold standard, I have to disagree.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask you a question?
You may.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't here when the bill that you obviously favor was considered by the Senate. My question's simple. Did it grant amnesty to folks who are in our country illegally?
No, Senator, I don't believe it did. I think the decision in the bill was that those who are undocumented, currently living in the United States, would report themselves to the government and pay their taxes and their Social Security. They would not qualify for citizenship, at least in the outset. And the idea was to get everybody on the books once and for all. I think that is a positive step forward. It did have favorable sections for Dreamers, which you can imagine I had some interest in. But there were several things.
How is that not amnesty?
Dream Act?
How is that not amnesty?
Well, it isn't as if they're being forgiven for wrongdoing. They were brought to this country as children and infants. I don't think that there was any culpable conduct on the part of these Dreamers, if you wish
So
And amnesty,
you were allowed to register, and if you registered, you could stay indefinitely?
there was a path to citizenship for dreamers. But there was no culpable conduct on the part of infants brought here to this country.
I'm just trying to understand. It just sounds to me like that's amnesty.
In your eyes, it may be, but if a child is brought here at the age of 2 to say that they are guilty of some criminal act or should have criminal culpability, I think is an extreme position.
Well, I'm not trying to say 2-year-olds are bad people. I'm just trying to understand what your bill does, and it sounds like it's
lengthy.
amnesty.
It's lengthy.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I was part of that, and sort of here's what I'll tell my good friend from Louisiana. You got to get bipartisan buy-in, right? You got to secure your border. If you don't, it's a fruitless exercise. You need to increase legal immigration because we don't have enough people to work in our economy, and you need to deal with people here legally, and I've been very open to doing all those things. But it is 2023, and Senator Cornyn mentioned our effort didn't make it. If you want to use it as a base product, fine. But even I would say in 2023, the problem is so much bigger than it was before. It would take more effort on the border. It would take a real lift to stop the flow, and I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to compromise, but the administration has done nothing. Senator Kennedy, they sent a bill that nobody on our side would support, and it was a dream of the left. I mean, again, at the end of the day, I don't mind disagreeing with Republicans about how to fix an immigration system. I do mind doing nothing about it. And the sooner we can have this debate in this committee, and you may be surprised, there might be consensus, big bill, small bill, middle bill, something's better than nothing. America is under siege, and we need to fix this problem.
Mr. Chairman.
Just a second, we're going to return to the subject of this hearing shortly. Senator Klobuchar.
I'm looking forward to hearing the witnesses, but Mr. Chairman, I did want to point out the argument that nothing has been considered for 8 years or something like that. I actually view, when you look at the arc of time on this, when President Bush was in, he wanted desperately, Republican president, to get this done. I remember Senator Graham was in the group that worked on this. Then you fast forward, right, to Obama, and this is the effort you're talking about during that time. But even during President Trump, there was a major effort made, led by Senator Rounds, if you remember, an introduced bill that was maybe what Senator Graham was getting at when he talked about a more limited bill. It had funding for the border, significant funding for the border, but it also included more work on work permits and on visas, something people on this committee, a number of people on both sides of the aisle care about very much. Dreamers were covered under that bill. Temporary status people who are already here were covered under that bill. I don't remember every single detail.
Since I walked away right there at the beginning, did they change topics or something? Because I'm still reading, hearing on book ban and censorship. And they talking about fentanyl and all kind of other stuff. Did it switch subjects? Which I don't mind that it switched and stuff, you know what I'm saying? More information is just more information. But the hell just happened? Let's continue.
But I do remember is that we had enough Republican senators to get it over the line. The House was going to pass it. And then unfortunately, President Trump rejected the proposal. And so then it died. That is what happened. I only point that out because that was a very recent bipartisan effort compared to the one that was 8 years ago. So this has continued. And there has been to say that this was about amnesty or any of that, this was actually about moving our country forward because, yes, border, do more, but no great country has expanded with a shrinking workforce, and we have made it so difficult for doctors and nurses and for people that want to be here. It has made it really hard in many of our states, in the ag sector, in the hospitality sector, in others. And I just believe immigrants don't diminish America. They are America, and we have to find a way to do this. And one of the arguments that always seems to get lost is the economic argument for how important this is right now for our country's future.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Whitehouse.
I just wanted to observe, Mr. Chairman, your long and passionate advocacy for immigration reform, particularly around Dreamers, and recognize the ranking member for his helpful participation in multiple efforts at reforming the immigration system. I think with you both as chair and ranking member, there really is a prospect for doing something bipartisan and useful in this committee, and count me in. I would also flag that the next budget committee hearing coming up is on the economic value of more robust immigration, which has very powerful economic value for Americans. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I'll get you, I know you want to conduct the hearing, but I'm glad I brought this up. It seems to be there a lot of interest about what to do. And the bill that Senator Klobuchar mentioned got 54 votes. I remember it well. There are many combinations, small, medium, and large. The problem is not just small, medium, and large, it's unbelievably out of control. I've been doing this since 2006. I never dreamed that we'd be where we are here today with policies that basically are in shambles. Whether you like President Trump or not, we had the lowest illegal crossings in the last 40 years on his watch. Now, what happened? Democratic president changed all those policies, and we have a tsunami of illegal immigrants that are destroying New York City and other cities. Rather than talking today about what we should do, I don't care what the base bill is. It could be what Senator Klobuchar said. It could be any bill you want as the base bill. I'd like to get this committee involved in trying to fix this problem.
It's funny kind of seeing him on Trump's tip. I don't think we'll ever like you anyway, goddamn, Mr. Lindsey Graham. Now, our topics be flip-floppers, boy. This is one of them flip-flopping politicians right here, boy. He don't know which way he going. But let's continue.
I accept your invitation to be part of that, and let's do it starting with that bill, perhaps others. Today we welcome 5 witnesses. I'll introduce the majority witness, then turn to Ranking Member Graham to introduce the minority witnesses. Our first witness is the Secretary of State of Illinois, Alexi Janulius. Secretary Janulius serves as state librarian for Illinois as well. He's advocated for libraries in our state and successfully worked to prohibit restrictions on books based on partisan or personal objections in Illinois. I look forward to hearing more about his effort in my home state. We're also joined by Professor Emily Knox, Associate Professor at the University of Illinois, an expert on censorship and literature, and the author of the book Banning in the 21st Century America. Final majority witness is Cameron Samuels. Cameron is a current student at Brandeis University and graduate of Seven Lakes High School in Katy, Texas. In high school, Cameron led efforts to fight censorship in their community. They are the co-founder of Students Engaged in Advancing Texas, an organization that seeks to protect access to books for young people. Ranking Member Graham, would you like to introduce your witnesses?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have Nicole Nelly, is that right? Yeah, you got it right. She's president and founder of Parents Defending Education. The organization has the goal of reclaiming schools from activists promoting political agendas by fostering education based on scholarship and facts. She's also the founder of Speech First, a national campus free speech organization, has worked at the Independent Women's Forum and the Cato Institute. She received a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, I guess it is, and her Master of Public Policy and Economic Policy and Foreign Policy from Pepperdine. Our second witness is Max Eden. Max, thank you, is a research fellow at AEI, American Enterprise Institute, focused on education reform, specifically K-12 and early childhood.
Actually, they didn't get me on this one here, Forever Lisa. This one seems like to be the whole one. It haven't changed up in about, what's today? Today is the 13th. This was on yesterday afternoon. It don't look like it's switched up too much this time. You know what I'm saying? But there's other ones and stuff. When it comes down to those press conferences, I learned with that Memphis thing with the cops and the dude and stuff. I learned it there. And then the previous one with the one in Hawaii, it's like they cut them things short. That's the reason why I didn't speak on Memphis, because the press conference that I seen when it first happened, it was totally different a couple of days later. And it was like, hold on, they ain't putting out the same info that they did on that original. It's like I started catching on, that's what they be doing and stuff. So it's like if you ain't recording it right then, you won't get the whole first press conference. That's with any kind of breaking news. You know what I'm saying? They will cut it down and show you what they want you to hear or see. You know what I'm saying?
Education and was previously senior member at the Manhattan Institute. AEI is a public policy think tank dedicated to defending human dignity, expanding human potential, and building a freer and safer world. He co-wrote the book Ban Mirage Report with scholars from the Heritage Foundation, debunking the myth of a book ban crisis in the United States. He received his BA in history from Yale University. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Graham. The procedure is customary, 5 minutes from each witness to make an opening statement, and in rounds of questions, each senator allotted 5 minutes. Please try to remain within your allotted time. Now I'm going to ask the witnesses as a group to stand and raise their right hand and take an oath. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Secretary Janulius, you're the first up.
Good morning, Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and distinguished members of the Committee on the Judiciary. Thank you for allowing me the honor and privilege of being here this morning. One of the most exciting responsibilities of serving as Secretary of State in the state of Illinois since January of this year is the ability to serve as the state's librarian. As our youth continue to need educational assistance in catching up after the disruption caused by COVID, I believe libraries in every single community across this country have had an especially critical role to play in increasing educational opportunities for all Americans. So imagine my surprise when, in the year 2023, instead of inheriting a debate over what more can be done with and for our libraries, I was confronted with a book banning movement upon taking office. You see, our libraries have become targets by a movement that disingenuously claims to pursue freedom, but is instead promoting authoritarianism. Authoritarian regimes ban books, not democracies. Tragically, our libraries have become the thunderdomes of controversy and strife across our nation, the likes of which we've never seen before. These radical attacks on our libraries have divided our communities, and our librarians have been harassed, threatened, and intimidated for simply doing their jobs. The need to stand up and fight for our freedoms and our librarians, especially at this perilous time for our democracy, is why I initiated House Bill 2789 in Illinois. This legislation, the first of its kind in the United States of America, is a triumph for our democracy, a win for First Amendment rights, and most importantly, a great victory for future generations to come. Under this legislation, Illinois libraries will not be eligible for state-funded grants if they ban books. This right to read legislation will help remove the pressure that librarians have tragically had to endure over the last couple of years. This legislation is important because both the concept and practice of banning books contradicts the very essence of what our country stands for and what our democracy was founded on. It also defies what education is all about: teaching our children to think for themselves. If the book banners care to, they can go to our libraries and check out the Federalist Papers, the U.S. Constitution, and even Supreme Court cases on the First Amendment. What they will learn is that our democracy depends on the marketplace of ideas. That marketplace of ideas will not function if we ban books, because we will be banning ideas and preventing our children from thinking.
For the new people in the room, this is a hearing on book banning and censorship. You know what I'm saying? I seen couple of highlights from this. You know what I'm saying? I felt that this would be a good one to come back to, you know, on these Senate and Congress meetings and things, because they are piling up quick. As they really came back to work this month. That's all I got to say. Boy, they are throwing down. But
banning knowledge, culture, empathy, understanding, and diverse and differing worldviews. Ray Bradbury, the acclaimed Illinois author who wrote Fahrenheit 451, was quoted as saying, "The problem in our country..." I
had to fix that issue. Every time I stop the video and go to the mic, I drop a downscale for some reason. Got to figure that out.
Parents and only parents have the right and the responsibility to monitor the access of their children, and only their children, to library resources. There are more than 2,500 instances of books being banned in schools last year, including many American classics such as 1984, The Adventures of Huck Finn, The Catcher in the Rye, The Color Purple, The Kite Runner, Of Mice and Men, and I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Look, I have...
Hold on, time out. Why they ban The Color Purple for? That's a new one there. I mean, what was wrong with The Color Purple? Did Popo beat her in the book? Or Hoppo or Popo? I forgot all about that damn movie. I didn't even watch that shit.
I have 3 young daughters, and there are some books and titles that my wife and I don't feel are age appropriate for them. But I could never imagine a world where I would tell another family what books their kids should or should not be allowed to read. Book banners say they want, quote, local control. What's more local than controlling what takes place in your own household? That's the very definition of local control. And the ultimate irony is that by instituting more book bans, these groups want the government to have more of a say in telling everyone's children what to think and believe. Well, that's government overreach at its peak. Books are a vital way to open our minds to other cultures, religions, identities, and possibilities. Let's also remember the mental health crisis growing across the country. Access to books and the freedom of expression help battle isolation. Books connect us and promote empathy and understanding. Our legislation establishes a clear path, opposite and away from the damaging trend to ban and censor books that a small but loud few disagree with. We need to take any hint of censorship seriously, because free speech is not only crucial to democracy, but imperative for the survival of our civilization. Last point I will make. This issue should have nothing to do with political party. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. This is a freedom of speech and a freedom of ideas issue. Not once during the creation of this legislation did I ask a librarian if they were a Democrat or Republican. Not once did I ask an author if they were a Democrat or Republican. Not once did I ask a constitutional expert if they were a Democrat or Republican. Every single person we spoke to not only was in favor of our legislation, but was deeply concerned with even the concept of book banning. We want our schools and libraries to be open and welcoming settings for education, not cultural battlefields. This legislation aims to unify our communities and seeks to restore a right that some of us may have grown to take for granted, the freedom to think for ourselves. It's my hope that others may look toward Illinois and see the value in adopting our legislation as a model.
Hold on, Leah. You said you over there on the West Coast. They supposed to have 5G. You mean to tell me 5G can't go through a tree? What's the point of paying for it? I'm just saying.
To stop book banning in its tracks and to protect the right to read freely and without fear of retribution. I could not be more proud of this legislation, and I implore everyone in this room to please be on the right side of history and push back against these book bans in every and any way possible. Thank you again to the committee.
Thank you, Secretary Janelius. Mr. Eden.
Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, members of the Committee on the Judiciary, thank you for inviting me to testify. My name is Max Eden, and I'm a research fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. To put it bluntly, books aren't being banned, and it's good that they are. The media keeps using the word banned, but that word doesn't mean what you think it means. In common usage, banned means made unavailable, yet the most banned genderqueer is still available on Amazon. The same, unfortunately, can't be said for Ryan Anderson's When Harry Became Sally. Only books on one side of that issue, it seems, actually get banned. Rather, this conversation focuses on school library availability. If ban means made unavailable, then virtually every book ever published has been effectively banned in school libraries. But that's not even what this word means here. Indeed, a book can be both banned and totally available.
Man, I got my center light in the right position. It looks like it's shining on his ceiling missing.
Available in a school library. That's because the media has accepted the expansive definition of ban offered by PEN America. If a book has been taken off the shelves, reviewed, and placed back on the shelves, it has, according to PEN, been banned. If a school places a parental permission requirement on a book, it has, according to PEN, been banned. If a school moves a book to a guidance counselor's office, it has, according to PEN, been banned. In their report, Banned in the USA, PEN draws parallels in all this to Nazi Germany. Now, my public school library didn't carry Mein Kampf. Was it banned? I don't know. But I do know that I've read a few books about this era since, and I've so far missed the part where the Nazi Party forced schools to relocate books to guidance counselors' offices. To provide a linguistically honest account, the Heritage Foundation's Jay Green, Madison Marino, and I set out to assess how many of the 2,532 books in PEN's 2022 report that were labeled as banned were actually removed from school libraries. We did this with one simple trick. We checked the card catalogs. As it turns out, nearly 3/4 of the books that PEN labeled as banned were still in school libraries. Careful analysis also belies the claims that books are being banned because of race or LGBT issues. Whereas PEN America labels the Black Lives Matter-inspired The Hate U Give as the 5th most banned book, we found it available in every single school library in question. And when the Washington Post examined over 1,000 review requests made by parents, less than 7% mentioned LGBT without also containing the word sexual, although those requests may have contained words like pornographic or obscene. And that's what this issue is really about, the provision of sexually explicit material to children by public employees. This is a question of judgment. Few would say it's unreasonable to keep Hustler, with its close-up genital photographs, out of school libraries. And few would insist that Romeo and Juliet, with its lyrical allusions to sex, should be removed. Communities must draw the line somewhere between those 2 points. But where exactly? Take the previously mentioned book, Genderqueer. That graphic novel famously includes a picture of a strap-on dildo blowjob. Is this okay for kids? Some think that it is, and some think that it isn't. You know something weird is going on, though.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, he didn't just say that. Tell me he just didn't say that.
And few would insist that Romeo and Juliet, with its lyrical allusions to sex, should be removed. Communities must draw the line somewhere between those 2 points. But where exactly? Take the previously mentioned book, Genderqueer. That graphic novel famously includes a picture of a strap-on dildo blowjob. Is this okay for kids?
Now, this is how this hearing is going to go from here on out. This ain't even funny. They pushing this shit to kids. You know what I'm saying? They sneaking it in. And then when you go check a lot of these, what you call school board meetings, which they're chopping and editing those videos before it come out to the public, which is against the fucking law. You know what I'm saying? Those things are supposed to be available for at least a year. So I heard. You know what I'm saying? Why the fuck does that kind of shit need to be in an elementary school? Why should it need, why would it be in a high school? In a college, these folks are going, they grown, goddamn, the shit they do any goddamn way, they grown. But they're going, yeah, Leah, it's gonna go like this one here. This is banning of books and censorship. So, you know what I'm saying, when you hear the stuff on the media, and you know what I'm saying, they come in and try to blend it in with the black history and the banning of the books and stuff like that, so we can get upset and fight for the rights for these books and shit, when actually they're gonna slip this shit in the back door, right under what we supposed to be fighting for. I've been knew this, but it's good to see it come to the floor. You know what I'm saying? Because just having parents call it out at the school board meetings and reading the books ain't enough for the people to really catch on to what these schools are doing. That's the reason why they don't want us in these meetings. Cameras and everything, they'll whip your ass for goddamn camera. Why
something that it is, and something that it isn't. You know something weird is going on, though, when parents try to read passages of these books at school board meetings, and the school board cuts them off because they insist the material is too obscene to be read out loud. I guess kids could be listening? Great for them to read, but unacceptable for them to hear? I think that's the principle, maybe. It's kind of gross to say, and I don't want to, but this hearing has been called, and we really can't have an honest discussion without knowing what we're actually talking about. We're talking about books with explicit passages about fisting, butt plugs, analingus, the spit or swallow decision, and rape. I won't read those verbatim, but I will read a passage from a few of the most banned books. From the fourth most banned, All Boys Aren't Blue. You were fully erect at...
Now, this is getting outrageous right here. This is really getting outrageous.
This point. Well, for them to hear, I think that's the principle, maybe. It's kind of gross to say, and I don't want to. Unacceptable for them to hear. I think that's the principle, maybe. You know something weird is going on, though, when parents try to read passages of these books at school board meetings, and the school board cuts them off because they insist the material is too obscene to be read out loud. I guess kids could be listening? Great for them to read, but unacceptable for them to hear? I think that's the principle, maybe. It's kind of gross to say, and I don't want to, but this hearing has been called, and we really can't have an honest discussion without knowing what we're actually talking about. We're talking about books with explicit passages about fisting, butt plugs, analingus, the spit or swallow decision, and rape. I won't read those verbatim, but I will read a passage from a few of the most banned books. From the fourth most banned, All Boys Aren't Blue.
This is just...
You were fully erect at this point. You promised that you're not going to tell anyone? I promised. You then grabbed my hand and made me touch it. It was the first time I'd ever touched a penis that wasn't my own. I knew that what was happening wasn't supposed to happen. Cousins weren't supposed to do these things with cousins. And from the also fourth most banned, Lawn Boy. In the fourth grade at a church...
Hey, Spark, this is the books that are in public school at this moment. These books are actually on the shelf for these kids to grab them, from elementary school on up. This is supposed to be a book ban and censorship. This is some crazy shit right here.
Youth group meeting out in the bushes behind the parsonage, I touched Doug Goebel's dick, and he touched mine. In fact, there were even some mouths involved. 10-year-olds performing sodomy, underage incest, strap-on dildo blowjobs. Is this okay for kids? Judging by the fuss made by the media, NGOs...
Y'all better be glad I have it speeded up, man. I don't think I would want to hear this at normal speed. This is too much. But this is telling us we need to get more involved. You know what I'm saying? Stop laughing at these white folks goddamn cutting up at these school board meetings. We need some black folks up in there together.
And some Democratic politicians, it seems there is a politically significant contingent that believes this is all actually very good for kids. But personally, I'm not at all troubled by the fact that some moms believe that this is inappropriate, and that some school boards agree. And I find it kind of weird that the United States Senate is troubled enough to call a hearing about all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eden. Professor Knox. You need to turn on the microphone. There you go.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin. Ranking Member Graham, and members of the committee for giving me the opportunity to testify at this hearing. I'm an associate professor in the School of Information Sciences, the iSchool at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I'm also board chair of the National Coalition Against Censorship. I previously served as president of the Freedom to Read Foundation, the legal arm of the American Library Association. My testimony does not reflect the views of the University of Illinois, NCAC, FTR.
Turn my mic on, let me get started already. I have nothing bad to say yet about this woman, but she better not be coming up here defending these freaking books, because they'll set a black face up there and they'll sit up there and look like they fucking educated with what they're saying. They just make our fucking culture look bad. I ain't even gonna start. God dang on, I'm gonna just let her go. Let me see what direction she's going in before I even start. You know what I'm saying? But she better not be defending these fucking books. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Or the ALA. My research focuses on information access, intellectual freedom and censorship, information ethics and policy, and print culture studies. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and grew up in Columbia, Maryland. I studied religion at both Smith College and the...
Check out the woman sitting beside her and watch her eyes keep glancing back at her. Look like she's giggling to herself. You know what I'm saying? She must be on the stupid side, boy, I swear. This is who they send in there to represent our people. It's a bunch of bullshit, yeah.
University of Chicago.
Damn,
and after working as a project assistant at the law firm of Kirkland & Ellis, I received my MSLAS from the iSchool at Illinois. After working as a theological librarian for 5 years, I attended the doctoral program at the School of Communication and Information at Rutgers University. Books and libraries have always been a part of my life. My mother was a high school librarian at Magruder High School in Montgomery County, Maryland for 32 years, and I often spent my summers with her shelving, conducting inventory, and checking in magazines. We always observed Banned Books Week. Ma would bring home the list of books that had been challenged, and my favorite author, Judy Blume, was almost always on the list. The characters in her books seemed like real people to me and my friends. I could not understand why people would want me to not read books, would not want me to read books about my own life. My father was a professor at Morgan State University in Baltimore, and when I followed in his footsteps by getting a PhD, I knew exactly what I wanted to study. Why do people attempt to ban books? It is not surprising that the reasons are clear. Reading is powerful, and the freedom to read can be frightening. According to the ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom, over 2,500 unique titles were targeted for censorship in 2022. Almost all of the books can be categorized as diverse, or books by and about LGBTQIA, Native, people of color, gender diversity, people with disabilities, and ethnic, cultural, and religious minorities. At the same time, researchers have found that 71% of Americans oppose book bans in public libraries, and 67% oppose banning books in school libraries. Books are one of the most powerful technologies in the world. They bring ideas across both time and space in a small, portable package. During this current crisis, there's a lot of discussion about whether or not books are harmful or dangerous or hurtful. This actually depends on who is reading them. As Jesse Shara noted, we do not know what happens when an individual reads a book. Each person brings their own experiences to the book, and those experiences will determine their response. These interpretations are never static. Rudine Sims Bishop argued books are mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. A book can help us understand each other better by helping to change our attitudes towards difference. What we see right now is that people are fixated on the idea that books are only mirrors and sliding glass doors. They only reflect something true about the reader themselves or the reader's world, or they invite the reader to mimic an identity or action they read about in a book. It's important to remember that books are also windows. They give us access to other people's lives. Carrie.
I'm trying to let her ride. But I know this motherfucker did not come to the Senate floor and stick up for these fucking books. Why it gotta be your black ass? Don't our culture have enough shit to worry about? I ain't even gonna start just yet.
Mary H. Robinson notes that adults often censor difficult knowledge, or knowledge that many adults find challenging to address in their own lives, but especially with children. What could be more difficult than knowledge that can define your identity? But in order to describe your truth, you must have the words to do so. These campaigns to censor books are unconstitutional and against every person's right to intellectual freedom. That is, the right of every individual to hold, express opinions, and seek, access, receive, and impart information and ideas without restriction. The First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law abridging the
Man, this woman beside her, man, wants to laugh so fucking hard. This chick up here is making an ass of herself. I wouldn't trust you around no fucking kids if you stick up for these fucking books. You should be goddamn go. What's the name of that shit? That you need to sign up to be goddamn on one of those damn pedophile motherfuckers. If you speaking up for these damn books, damn, you mean to tell me you speaking up for elementary kids, learning how to suck dildos and how to insert butt plugs and shit? The fuck is wrong with your meatball looking at? Let's go.
freedom of speech. Our right to speak, write, publish, and read are all protected by the Constitution. This right is not based on whether or not people agree with the ideas being expressed. We must remember that as citizens of the United States, we are a free people, and it is our right to read freely.
Thank you, Professor Knox. Ms. Neely.
Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for inviting me today. My name is Nicole Neely, and I'm the president of Parents Defending Education, a membership association that gives parents the knowledge and tools they need to be effective advocates for their children's education. Yes, books have become a flashpoint in schools over the past few years. Yet headlines and research papers by activist organizations have intentionally muddied the waters between World War II book burning and what's happening in America's K-12 schools. If you hear one thing today, know this. Families' concerns about books in schools are not book banning. First, the book issue is a curation issue. It should be obvious that a book that is part of a lesson plan in a second grade classroom is more concerning than a book that can be voluntarily checked out from a public library. And also that sensitive topics read to children at very young ages is more concerning than high schoolers learning about the human body in health class. But today, merely suggesting that kids who believe in Santa not have unfettered access to graphic sexual novels is tantamount to murder. In Connecticut, one resident said that the school board's desire to put parental consent rules in place for a few books described as obscene and explicit was, quote, a matter of life and death. It's not. When we do hear from parents about books, the phrase that we hear the most frequently is age-appropriate. Radical indeed. School boards across the country cut the mics on parents who read passages from these books, stating, this is inappropriate, there are children in the room. Yet those same books are being provided to children in schools. While it may seem politically convenient to scapegoat parents, I ask you to read some of these explicit paragraphs and look at these sexual images with your children or your grandchildren, and then tell your constituents whether you consider such content educational. As a society, we don't put Playboy in kindergartens. This isn't considered a book ban, but common sense. Strangely, media coverage over this issue frames any discussion at all as tyranny. It is disingenuous at best and deceptive at worst. Classrooms, schools, and libraries have finite space and must select which materials are on display at any given time. Nor do they have unlimited budgets, so must prioritize certain purchases over others. How these decisions are made and who is involved in that process is a matter of public accountability. Yet when people ask questions, they are crucified. Pretending that objections to minors accessing explicit sexual content is a threat to liberty and literature is a straw man and a distraction from real concerns about the quality of children's education and whether students are safe in school. Second, the book issue is a parental awareness issue. It is not partisan to assert that children do better when their families know what's going on in their lives. This isn't rocket science. The more information parents have, the better they can support their kids emotionally and academically. America has a youth mental health crisis. Yet while schools lobby for increased mental health funding, for which the federal government has provided hundreds of millions of dollars, they are exacerbating that problem. When kids are given assignments beyond their comprehension level that even adults find challenging, violence, war crimes, rape, incest, and more, it should come as no surprise when children become depressed or hopeless. Books from schools should be discussed with loved ones, perhaps provide historical context or another perspective. Parents know their young learners' quirks and preferences and whether certain material might resonate with or would be appropriate for their loved ones. These decisions may differ between children in the same family at the same age based on factors like maturity and sensitivity. Children deserve an education that meets their specific needs. Yet when families ask to simply know when what their children have access to, or may wish to put guardrails on material for children of certain ages, they're pilloried in the public square. Such public flagellation is intended to not only extract a pound of flesh from the perpetrator, but to send a message to any other parent with similar reservations. Speak up, and the mob will come for you too. Far too many schools keep families at arm's length, which could not come at a worse time. Kids would benefit if the adults in their lives worked together in their best interest. But families are now considered adversaries, not even entitled to basic information about their children. In Wisconsin, one school district's teacher training session stated, parents are not entitled to know their kids' identities. That knowledge must be earned. My organization has documented over 1,000 districts across the country with parental exclusion policies, which state that families don't have
Seems like these school boards and school administrations and all this shit have too much goddamn power. I mean, I think it was one of us that brought it up the other day about the uniforms at school. I never did like that crap. You know what I'm saying? Ugh. To me, it was a form of communism, socialism. We look like fucking China. All the kids sitting at the bus stop looking like some goddamn, look at all this goddamn saying. It's easy for them to pick them up then, boy, goddamn going to be. No, I just didn't like that at all, what you call it. Like everybody in the same uniform. Salute, Ms. Liz. Thank you for joining us.
A right to know their child's gender identity in a taxpayer-funded school. And finally, it is not evil to want to be involved in your child's education. Every time a parent is falsely accused of wanting to ban a book because of reasonable concerns about subject matter appropriateness, neighbors are pitted against each other based on dishonest premises. This is a deliberate attempt to demonize parents and to chill both their speech and activism. 20 years ago, if a 6-year-old went to school and talked about sex, teachers would assume that that child was being abused. In 2023, children are not only learning about sex at school, but are being told to keep secrets from their families as well. Please stop mocking parents. Please stop name-calling. Please listen to the families who want their children to learn basic grammar rather than be policed on pronouns, who want their children to read at grade level and not taken out of class for political rallies, who want their young children's innocence to be preserved for a few years longer than an activist academic might insist. We are your constituents too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neely. Cameron Samuels.
Members, thank you for this opportunity to address you this morning. I am Cameron Samuels, a student from Katy, Texas, and I use gender-neutral pronouns they, them. I'm the executive director of Students Engaged in Advancing Texas. In 2022, I graduated in a district of more than 90,000 students. In recent years, we have faced a so-called culture war over books. My experience began when a few people sought to ban Jerry Craft's New Kid, a children's book like any other, but some weaponized identity to censor black books.
Why he look like he stole Pee Wee Herman's clothes and washed them in bleach? What the hell is this shit? Well, Ms. Liz, I do agree with you. Certain books need to be allowed, but not books on sucking dildos and in certain butt plugs and sodomy going to elementary school. I can't believe it myself that this crap is in the damn school. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been hearing about it for the last 3-4 years, I would say. You know what I'm saying? Them call this out at the school board meetings, but it took this long to get to the Senate floor. It's crazy. This stuff, all that cutting up you see at them school board meetings need to be happening. That's all I say. And we need more black faces out there. Get these school board meetings.
The conversation on books quickly escalated, and I signed up to speak at the next meeting. Walking into the boardroom that night, I realized I was the only student there. I was the only one whose future was directly affected by the district's decisions. Adults spoke for restricting student access to literature. When my turn came, I spoke for a complete education and the freedom to learn. They applauded the adults, but gave me silence, leaving me isolated in a room of people making policy about students without us at the table. In the following months, I stood up for my freedoms, but my school district removed age-relevant books at record pace. Nearly all were targeted for identity, such as LGBTQ themes, racial diversity, and religion. These books represent students. We found ourselves more in challenged books than in school libraries. So I gathered student groups to distribute hundreds of challenged books district-wide. We packed board meetings with the community who knew that students deserve better. Libraries offer discovery beyond classrooms. Censorship limits our liberty to learn. It erases our identity and humanity. When Katy targeted Art Spiegelman's mouse, I could not fathom that cartoon mice walking shamefully naked to Nazi gas chambers were considered sexual by the book's challengers. My ancestors fled religious persecution in Eurasia. I faced too many anti-Semitic remarks in school to remember. Classmates told me the Holocaust did not exist. Many cannot name a Jewish person, so they learn about Judaism from media representation, often dominated by stereotypes. Books like Mouse teach accurate reflections of Jewish identity. If a friend knew the real extent of the Holocaust, maybe they would have thought twice before spraying cologne in my face, saying he was gassing the Jew. Where they burn books, they burn people. Mike Curado's Flamer illustrates a queer Boy Scout, bullied and traumatized. I saw myself in the book, having faced similar harassment in school. Flamer gave me words for my trauma, but it was banned. Censorship bars students from age-relevant materials, leaving them unable to realize their actions can traumatize others. Responding to a police report against the book, officers entered a high school in my district to remove it. In history, the Gestapo secret police in Nazi Germany acted similarly. My community faced tactics my ancestors fled from across the world to escape. Not only schools censor books, but our state. Students and I introduced amendments with senators to book ban bills for accountability and non-discrimination. They were rejected, and already the bill faces a court injunction. Historically, censorship is never on the right side of history. My state is home to 8 million people under the age of 20. And since everything is bigger in Texas, we lead the nation for book bans. Censorship impacts our futures. Students deserve to be decision makers. Censorship is undemocratic. Viewpoint discrimination is contrary to the First Amendment. The Supreme Court rules to protect literature from scrutiny against identity. We may not see eye to eye, but we are facing a students' rights crisis nationwide. As a 17-year-old, I should not have been focused on defending my rights from bigotry. I should have been learning. Ensuring education reflects its primary stakeholders, the students. We can proceed with a solution to censorship that facilitates collaboration between students, families, and educators. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samuels. We have a round of questions from the senators. Each have 5 minutes. I'd like to direct my question to Secretary Janulius. The American Library Association has written the following: 1,269 demands to censor library books and resources in 2022.
Well, that was kind of suspicious too, Ms. Liz, when they took the cursive out of the schools. At that time, in my mind frame, at that time when I first heard that, I was like, they must want us to put our name properly on certain roles and stuff once they put our ass on the back of the truck. They want to be able to read your name legibly. But I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? You know how we look at some of the older things and stuff, and people don't sign the stuff, and you really can't tell who's on the family tree and stuff by the handwriting and stuff. But if they ain't not writing in cursive, it'll be a whole lot easier for them to read the things. I'm just saying.
The highest number of attempted book bans since ALA began compiling data about censorship in libraries more than 20 years ago. The unparalleled number of reported book challenges in 2022 nearly doubles the 729 challenges reported in 2021. My first part of my question is going to ask you to address that statement by the American Library Association in light of testimony before us that this is much ado about nothing. And the second one is the notion that book extremist attacks on student and book bans are not that prevalent. Book banning has reached new heights over the past 2 years. Local leaders in states such as Texas, Florida, Utah, Missouri, Iowa, Indiana, and others have all recently enacted legislation facilitating banning books in local school districts and libraries. These new laws provide for civil penalties and/or jail time for violations that pose great risk to teachers and librarians. And that's why groups like the American Library Association have spoken out. Can you reflect on those two statements?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The two are related. As state librarian, I travel the state of Illinois, and we talk to librarians, we talk to libraries, school libraries, public libraries. The level of threats, intimidation, physical threats, in talking to librarians, are not my viewpoints. They've never seen it in their entire careers. Because of these political attempts to ban books, we're seeing libraries close down at record numbers. It's difficult to find new librarians who want to serve in roles that used to be their dream jobs. And just a few weeks ago, in the suburbs of Chicago, numerous libraries received.
All right, which one of y'all in the chat wanted to be a librarian and be a librarian for their career? I mean, what's the odds of somebody wanting to be a librarian? I can't believe he just said that.
Bomb threats, and were forced to close their doors. So I can tell you, in Illinois, it's a very...
Man, them drag queens are everywhere, man. They in the schools reading. They at the bars. They at the White House. They in parades all up in the street, man. It's like they just fell from the damn sky. I don't know, but I don't know what the hell going on, but at school they definitely shouldn't be. They performing for our military. There's a lot going on, too much going on.
Real, and across the country, the problem is worse. And again, what our bill aims to do and will do is to fight for and protect these librarians.
Every time
we have to fight for our librarians. We also have to trust that they have the professional judgment, experience to make decisions on what books belong in circulation. This should not be up to fringe elements screaming from the rooftops about books that they've never read. These are librarians and individuals that have advanced degrees in library science, masters of library science, masters of information in library science, and it's important to make sure that we allow them to determine what's in circulation, and it's important for us to trust parents to determine what books their kids should read. And again, it is not up to parents to tell other parents what books kids should read. Another point I'd like to make when it comes to our legislation: we are not advocating for any single book to be at a library or not be at a library. What we're saying is let's trust our librarians to make these decisions, not an individual parent that's angry or disagrees with a certain viewpoint. Judy Blume said recently, "I believe that censorship grows out of fear. And because fear is contagious, some parents are easily swayed." Book banning satisfies their need to feel in control of their children's lives. This fear is often disguised as, quote, moral outrage. They want to believe that if their children don't read about it, and then their children won't know about it. And if they don't know about it, it won't happen. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I have 3 young daughters. Of course, there are books that are not age appropriate, but that's what being a parent is all about. Doing your best to keep an eye on what your children read and what they consume. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I would just add as well that putting this in the context of the world we live in, where so much information is so available to people carrying simply iPhones or any laptop computer that they have access to, that we ought to be honest and realistic about that. I agree with you. The first responsibility is the parent's responsibility, and we believe there are age-appropriate restrictions that can be introduced in libraries and other places, which generally are consistent with freedom of expression. I thank you. Senator Graham.
Thank you. Let's just build on what has been said. How do you say your name, sir? Alex?
Alexi Janulis. Okay. Alexi's fine.
I want to see if I got the point here. A public library is supported by public dollars. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Are you telling... been said. How do you say your name, sir? Alex?
Alexi Janulis.
Okay.
Alexi's fine.
I want to see if I got the point here. A public library is supported by public dollars. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Are you telling taxpayers of this country just shut up? Is all you worry about is your kids don't have a voice about how your taxpayer dollars are being spent and what kind of community you're living in here? Because you're a parent and you don't let your $3 read something, is it possible that the other things, that the books in question may hurt the community in the eyes of parents? Can a parent, a taxpayer, complain under this theory, or should they just shut up?
I would make the exact argument you are. This is about parents making decisions.
No, we're not making the same argument. My argument is, you just said, if you've got kids, you police your kids. Otherwise, just shut up and trust the library system, the school system. Let them decide for your community. I completely, totally reject that. I don't have any kids, should I shut up? I pay taxes. When you have a public library and you have a board, somebody decides what books go in or what not to go in, lend your voice to the cause. It's okay to speak out. for your community. Cameron, you have an advocacy group in Texas, right?
That is correct.
And you have every right to do that. You can advocate for your point of view, and somebody in Texas has to decide who wins. But never shut up, never be quiet. My point is, the theory of this case is parents have a very limited role in life. Apparently, taxpayers have a very limited role in this area. You're paying money to run these libraries. I mean, you're getting money from taxpayers. They should speak up. Ms. Knox, you said, is it unconstitutional for a parent to go to a school board or a public library and complain?
Thank you for giving me the chance to respond. Actually, almost all libraries have in their policies something called a request for reconsideration that allows parents or interested community members to object or Thank you for giving me the chance to respond. Actually, almost all libraries have in their policies something called a request for reconsideration that allows parents or interested community members to object or say what they would like to have changed in a library collection. I think what's important to remember is that this is a collective decision. It's not just one person who gets to say what is in a library collection.
I'm not arguing with you. Somebody has to decide. But the point is the individual here, the individual taxpayer, the individual parent. There's an effort in this country to shut you up. Ms. Neely, are you going to shut up?
We will absolutely not shut up. I am here on behalf of more than 10,000 members of Parents Defending Education who want to have a voice in their children's education. Yet they, every time they speak up, are mocked, are shamed, are intimidated and silenced and bullied by elected officials and community members who do not want them to speak up, who are told that they are book burners, who are ashamed of that. And you know what? We will not stop because after COVID, we had a window into what our children were learning or were not learning, and we were disappointed by that. So parents have not stopped, and they will not stop advocating for their children because the gatekeepers, be it the teachers' unions or anyone else, has shown that they do not have our children's best interest at heart. They have their money and their power structure at heart at the end of the day.
Mr. Eden, is it your testimony there's an organized effort in this country to push ideas, books, literature through the public school system and libraries that has a very strong political agenda behind it? Is that what you're telling us?
I think it's pretty clear that is what is going on, yes, sir.
Yeah, and if you don't see that, you're blind. You know, in Florida, Ron DeSantis did something you may not like, Mr. Chairman. In Illinois, you do it a different way. But Governor DeSantis decided he would step in and stop what he thought was abusive from his point of view. My point about this hearing is there's no roll up here for any of us. Illinois, you do it the way you want. Florida, you do it the way you want. Each school library, you'll decide. But the day that a parent, a concerned citizen, can't come forward and say, I object, without being humiliated, is a bad day for America. And there's nothing in the Constitution preventing everybody in this country from having a say to express yourself, to try to mold the community in a way that you think is better. And some of the things being pushed through this agenda are just, quite frankly, offensive.
I think you made the point earlier, and I want to repeat it. We all, I hope, agree, regardless of our political philosophy, that there are lines that cannot be crossed. Violence is one of those lines. Humiliation is one of those lines as far as I'm concerned. I think what we're talking about is policy here in this country when it comes to the basic rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Senator Whitehouse.
Thanks very much. My question is going to be for Secretary Janulis. There is one view of the facts here, which is that the conflicts that we have seen in school libraries and in school board meetings involving the school librarian and the local people who serve on the school board grow out of natural concerns by school parents. There is also significant reporting suggesting that national groups funded by right-wing organizations, fueled by dark money, using people who have no child in the school and may not even be from the state, come into town and mount a surprise attack on local people like a school librarian, people who work in the school, people who serve on the school committee, who are just local people trying to serve the school and who don't have any preparation for dealing with that kind of sudden disruption and political attack, particularly one that is well-scripted, well-financed, and basically comes in like an out-of-state artillery barrage on the unsuspecting school. In your investigation into all of this, which of those two factual descriptions is closer to the truth.
Thank you, Senator. We have seen, heard, and read about instances where right-wing groups, extremist groups, are trying to shut down or censor a certain book, access to certain books, which is why, again, our legislation is so very important to protect librarians and their ability to determine what books belong in circulation. I'm saddened that Senator Graham left. He didn't give me a chance to respond. And this whole notion that protecting the right to read and fighting against censorship is somehow anti-parent.
Oh, damn, my bad. I didn't know my mic was on mute. But this guy here, I ain't got no words for him, man. You got 3 girls and you allow this bullshit? Weak ass motherfucker.
Is one of the most ludicrous arguments I've ever heard. What we're saying is, don't let one parent who disagrees with a certain worldview determine whether or not a book should be in the library. That goes.
Where the hell he get one parent from? It's millions of fucking parents that don't agree with this shit. And if you want this shit, get the fuck out the country and take that shit so fucking where else. We tired of these motherfuckers coming in here trying to run shit, push shit up on us that we don't fucking want. Go in your own goddamn community and push that bullshit. Leave our shit alone. Goddamn. The fuck? Nobody should have to worry about that once you send your kids to school, especially in the school library. Like the woman said earlier, the Judy Boone books and all these other books and shit, man, been good for years and shit. Y'all come in here with some bullshit. They're butt plugs and sucking dildos and all this bullshit all up in books. I said I wasn't gonna cuss this show. Somebody's trying to make me mad.
Against the very point of our democracy, what it means to educate our youth, which is to allow them to think for themselves. And quite frankly, it's an anti-Republican argument. Republicans.
Even the dude beside you don't believe what the fuck you just said. The hell was that?
Don't let one parent who disagrees with a certain worldview determine whether or not a book should be in the library. That goes against the very point of our democracy. What it means to educate our youth, which is to allow them to think for themselves. And quite frankly, it's an
They're not getting a chance to think for themselves if you putting this bullshit in their motherfucking face, got daggone, in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. We didn't even get sex ed till like 5th grade, goddamn, back in the days. What kind of bull? The dude beside him don't even agree with your ass, god daggone. Who are you speaking for? Who sent you? The hell?
Anti-Republican argument. Republicans are the ones that allegedly are the ones who fight, the ones who...
I'm tired of hearing the Republican shit. You goddamn Democrats is the ones who fucked up the goddamn country. You act like we can't fucking see that shit. I hate when people keep throwing that Republican shit. A Republican was in fucking office, the country was alright. This was a couple years back. That wasn't too long ago. Now look at this shit. And you motherfuckers still trying to convince people the goddamn Republican this, Republican that. Shut the fuck up. Like I said, get the fuck out the goddamn country if you got an issue with it. God damn it. What the hell?
Who fight against censorship. And the ones who fight for our Constitution and the freedom of speech. Yet here they are, picking a page out of a random book that they don't agree with and making it sound like parents have no say. That's the exact opposite argument that we're trying to make.
And that would be particularly true if the people involved weren't parents, weren't from the community, weren't even from the state, but were being shipped in just in order to stir up trouble, make news, and create division and controversy.
That's 100% correct.
Let me ask consent that an article by a very good reporter named Amanda Milkovich, who covers Rhode Island for the Boston Globe, be made a matter of record. It's entitled "Libraries Face Increased Attempts to Ban Books," and it's quite a comprehensive piece of coverage about the way in which this movement has appeared in Rhode Island to make its points, I guess I'd say would be the nice way to say it. Thank you very much.
Without objection. Senator Grassley.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to submit questions for answers and use my time just to make a few points on this subject. First and foremost, the notion that this is a, quote, book ban is misleading and not truthful. This has nothing to do with restricting books to the general public. These books can still be purchased through various retailers if parents want their children to have access to these materials. The issue is protecting parental rights and their ability to raise their children. As a father of 5, I can confidently say no one knows what's best for a child more than their own parents. As such, I believe the first principle in education is that parents have a fundamental right and responsibility to guide their children's upbringing. This means parents ought to have the greatest say in determining what is best for their children. The Constitution gives this function to the states. Decisions on education need to be made at the state and local levels. These levels of education are closest and most accessible to the parents and children directly affected. States and school districts are best equipped to craft education policies according to the unique needs of the students. Further, moms and dads can more easily advocate for their children's needs in the classroom or even voice concerns to teachers, school officials, and that's closest to home. And if needed, they can reach out to their local and state elected officials to pursue broader educational policy changes much more easily than coming to Washington. In fact, this is something I regularly tell parents. Parents are their children's best advocate. Our children and their future thrive when state and local communities have this freedom to respond to the unique needs of families they serve. However, when this principle is violated, the results aren't to the benefit of children. For example, we saw this after the passage of No Child Left Behind. This law was enacted with the best of intentions, but showed just how challenging it is for one approach to successfully help millions of students attending schools in thousands of classrooms across the country. I've always been a critic of one-size-fits-all government. Those concerns ring especially true in education. Every child is unique. When we implement Washington Knows Best policy, like No Child Left Behind, the children suffered the most, and the teachers couldn't teach according to it the way they want to. That is why Congress passed the Every Student Succeeds Act to restore local decision-making and better serve individual parents, schools, and educators. A federal policy regarding classroom content sent by federal legislators or some distant faceless bureaucrats in Washington would take decision-making away from the parents who know best how to raise their kids. Throughout my 99 county tours of Iowa this year, moms and dads shared their experience and concerns about some books and materials that have been presented in Iowa schools. They've expressed reasonable concern about young, impressionable minds to explicit and graphic materials and content in some classrooms and school libraries. So common sense knows best. Unsurprisingly, we've seen every state and school district we've seen various state and school districts respond to parents' consent by enacting policies aimed at protecting children. Parents, in conjunction with state and local officials, must determine what is age appropriate for kids to ensure they are nurtured as they grow up. I'll continue to support efforts preserving the right of parents to determine their kids' education and give state and local districts the flexibility to shape policies that fit communities they serve. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, Senator Grassley. Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nobody's talking about interfering with the right of a parent to determine what kind of material his or her child should have access to. The issue really is the ability of a group of people, not even parents of students in schools, but a group of people or individuals who are able to go into a school district, a school board, in an effort to ban certain books. That is really the issue. And by any definition, I would consider that kind of effort to be an effort on book banning. And in fact, there are states that have already enacted legislation that makes it pretty easy to for anybody to go in and list a book as inappropriate and therefore removed until it goes through some sort of a review process. I'm specifically talking about Florida as an example. So Professor Knox, you've done some research on why there is this effort to ban books. Can you tell me what sorts of books are usually get on these banned book lists?
Yeah, I would say that, thank you for the question. So the books that usually show up on banned books lists are books that we consider to be diverse. And these are basically books about anybody who is not white, heterosexual, male, cis, books that are about LGBTQIA people, about people of color. These sorts of books are the books that we see on the banned books.
Look, motherfucker, stop putting our culture in the goddamn middle of this fucking conversation. This has something to do with all these homosexual books and all this other LGBT shit. Stop putting us in this motherfucking shit, because that's what been happening with a lot of these banned things. We're trying to ban these books, and then they'll put in the black history, black culture books and all that stuff. And none of these books has been brought up yet. I just heard The Color Purple earlier, but I'm not sure how much historic history is in the Color Purple, so I'm not worried about The Color Purple. But you haven't brought up one black book yet, but you keep trying to use this in your argument. You can't rile my people up no more with this bullshit. I hope not. I hope everybody's awake and not falling for this bullshit anymore. God daggone. If you want the books to be available, put them in a public library or put them in a fucking bookstore. If the parents want the kids to have them, just like Senator Grassley just said, you can go to the bookstores or the public library and get them from there. I'm just saying. Stop trying to put that shit up in goddamn public schools.
List. And I do want to address the idea of banning books. So really what we often say is that these books are not banned, but they are challenged. So like Biden's border crisis, Banned Books Week has a nice alliterative ring to it. But in fact, we talk much more about challenging books. And what this is removing books from access to its intended audience. So that includes both age appropriateness, but also who did the author intend this book to be read by? That is an important part of thinking about what we call collection development in libraries. We consider all sorts of issues when books are put in a collection, not just issues of, do we agree with what is being put on the collection, but also how do we show many different viewpoints and ideas? When we look at the diverse books that—
I'm sorry to—
Hey, y'all. She just using words. I ain't even gonna lie to you. She looked like a big-ass goddamn dumb balloon sitting up this motherfucker. I ain't even gonna start on her shit, boy. She need a goddamn razor line. If you cut your hair that fucking low, get a fucking edge up. You're worrying about some fucking kids. You ain't even a fucking kid. Why the hell are you worrying about what the kids need to learn? So they can develop more than you, more people like you and shit. And when your ass get older, these people still ain't gonna be goddamn attracted to your big ass. Goddamn, I'm just saying. The fuck is this bullshit? Go back a little bit, goddamn. Somebody was cutting her off here.
Do we agree with what is being put on the collection, but also how do we show many different viewpoints and ideas? When we look at the diverse books that—
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do understand that the target of a lot of these kinds of lists is books that depict diverse lifestyles, for example, if you want to call it that. And so, for example—
Hey, you know it's bullshit because this woman here is an absolute Democrat. Usually I hate when she talks, but if she's cutting you off in, I mean, this has got to be bad. What the fuck? We watch enough of these to know where this woman stands at. You know what I'm saying? This is not good right here.
One of the books that is being sought or challenged in Iowa is a book called Ho'onani Hula Warrior. This is a book about a child who doesn't see herself as a girl or a boy, but something in between. And this child dreams of leading the hula group, but everyone else thinks that only the boys should lead the hula group. And Native Hawaiians have traditionally recognized the existence of a third gender called mahu, and this book explores this and many other parts of Native Hawaiian culture. Yet this book could potentially be banned, as I mentioned, from a school district in Iowa for running afoul of a law against books for younger grades that deal with gender identity. Mr. Giannoulias, do you think, and also with Dr. Cox, do you think this book should be removed from school libraries?
Thank you, Senator. I personally do not, which goes again to the fundamental nature of our legislation, which is to allow librarians to make that decision. My guess is they would determine this book belongs in our libraries. The point I also want to make is, especially with regard to Hula Warrior, the goal of
Stop trying to confuse the conversation. We're talking about school libraries. You're trying to use library in a large reference or a large diameter. No, we're talking about school libraries, motherfucker. This dude right here, man, he ain't even got his tie on straight.
Literature is to reflect back to the reader either the struggles that the reader is facing or to provide insight into struggles that the reader has never had to imagine. Books are a safe place for people who are struggling, who need help. And I would disagree with one of the opponents here today.
I do need to get to, sorry, and I don't even need the answer from Dr. Cox, but I do have another question for you. Is there any evidence that says that exposure to certain kinds of books leads to harm to a community? Does exposure to an LGBTQ plus book somehow cause harm to the reader? Is there any evidence to that effect?
Zero.
No, there is not. What I mentioned before is that books can be windows to learn about other people. So it might be that you have a friend who is thinking about their own gender identity and you want to know more. And reading a book like that one will help you understand what your friend is going through.
Mr. Chairman, I should think that
what your friend is, what the friend is going through is something personal, something to do with them. Did she have to snap her neck and shit and get all up in her feelings? You weak ass human being. Goddamn, everything y'all say is with fucking goddamn emotion and shit. I'm tired of hearing y'all over emotional ass. This shit sounds stupid as hell. You on national fucking television making our culture.
to the reader, is there any
What the
evidence
hell is
to
wrong
that
with you?
effect?
Zero.
No, there is not. What I mentioned before is that books can be windows to learn about other people. So it might be that you have a friend who...
We've been had books to learn about other people. We learned about Indians, we learned about the Europeans, we learned about the Spaniards, we learned about Africans, we learned about Chinese. So what make this other new group, these new kids on the fucking block so fucking important if this was something dealing with their own self-esteem? So it has something to do with themselves. It ain't got shit to do with us. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to be that way, but they forcing shit on us, so you gotta push back at daggone. So I might cuss a little bit more before this shit ends. I'm just saying.
who is thinking about their own gender identity and you want to know more. And reading a book like that one will help you understand what your friend is going through.
Mr. Chairman, I should think that there is more harm to a young person who thinks that he or she can be shot to death in a school.
They only goddamn expert if they motherfucking Democrats. We gonna smack this shit all on the fucking Democrats, goddammit. If they want to keep talking about Republicans trying to block this shit, that mean goddamn Democrats, the people that goddamn people keep sticking up for. These goddamn pedophilias got 80,000 kids missing. We got goddamn all kind of shit going on with pedophilia with these motherfuckers right now. But we keep sticking up for these motherfuckers. They want that shit. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why folks is goddamn running away from the goddamn plantation and shit, man. They don't want their fucking kids all touched up on like goddamn Joe Biden smelling little kids' hair and shit. Goddamn on. And let me know what you're doing after the shit, after we finish this and shit. All up in little girls' ears and shit like that. Didn't know he was being recorded. Yeah, all kind of bullshit going on, but you know. You're supposed to hate Trump. Not saying that you're supposed to love him, but damn, open your fucking eyes and look at what's right and what's fucking wrong at this moment, boy. This is some bullshit right here. All this shit wasn't coming. They were trying to push this shit in while he was on the goddamn clock, but to tell you the truth, we can kind of blame this on damn Obama. Leaving bad taste in people's mouths and shit. Yeah, there you go.
School than being exposed to certain kinds of subjects and books. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Rono. Senator Lee.
I'm going to be showing a video clip in just a second, but at the outset of this, I want to make clear, I think nearly every American could agree that parents have some legitimate interest in what their child reads or is taught or otherwise exposed to about sex. I think it's very, very difficult for anyone to disagree with that. Now, that being the case, I think we need to proceed with this conversation with that backdrop and that understanding. I'm going to play a video clip right now. The video clip is from Deborah Caldwell Stone. She's the legal counsel for the American Library Association. Here's what she has to say on some of these topics that deal not with book banning, because no one here has banned any book. You can still get these books anywhere you want them. The question isn't whether to ban them. The question is whether they should be included in curriculum or in a school library. A library or a school curriculum, by definition, will be finite. There are a finite number of books that you can put in there. The question is which books should be included.
That should be an automatic hell no. That shit shouldn't be in no damn school libraries, period. Carry your ass down the street to the fucking library, the shit where people don't even go no fucking more, and put it up in there. I'm just saying. James, what's going on, bro? You ain't gonna believe this one. You ain't gonna believe this one right here, man. You ain't gonna believe this.
And which should not. Let's hear what Ms. Deborah Caldwell-Stone has to say on this topic.
But ultimately, we found that the thing that needs to happen most, and it needs to happen before these bills are introduced, is sustained messaging that reframes this issue, that takes it away from the idea that these are inappropriate for minors or sexually inappropriate for minors, and promote them as diverse materials and programming that are about inclusion, fairness, and protection of everybody's right to see themselves and their families reflected in the books in the public library.
Okay, so I think what we saw here right now is someone saying the quiet part out loud, acknowledging what the goal is. There is a goal here, and the goal is to sexualize children, to provide minors with sexually explicit material, and then hide this content from the parents. Hide it by changing the messaging, avoiding the heat by saying, no, these are not the...
Yeah, and that's another big issue. They try to hide it from the parents. I mean, if it's all good, why hide it from the parents? Why are we gonna fight, Candy? I didn't do it. Moneyboy put me up to this, even though he ain't around, but he put me up to this. But yeah, James, man, man, you should have heard, man. They got books up in the school library and shit talking about sucking on dildos. This is from goddamn elementary school, from kindergarten on up. Sucking on dildos and certain butt plugs and all kind of bullshit they got up in these damn books and shit. And it's people. And you know they use one black person to go up there to speak for this. You know what I'm saying? It always got to be one black dummy and shit. But they call Trump supporters the coons and the fucking goddamn on all kind of other bullshit. No, that's them motherfuckers right there. Them people who speak up for this shit. Now, I ain't gonna say it's all Democrats and shit, but it's these motherfuckers who speak up for this dumb ass shit. Looking like a damn dummy sitting on TV. Like, don't make no damn sense.
Droids you're looking for. This is not about sexually explicit content. This is about equality. This is about justice. This is about what's right and wrong. It has nothing to do with sex. Well, of course that's what someone would do if they were grooming your child, if someone were trying to sexualize your child. And make no mistake, that is what's happened. You see, there has been something that has happened in the last few years. During COVID, a lot of kids had online school, and parents were able to observe in the classroom in ways that they haven't been in the past. Observe what was being taught, how it was being taught, and it's awakened something significant among parents throughout America. And that's why you've got groups that are standing up, groups of parents, places across the country, including Utah, like Utah Parents United, the American Accountability Foundation, and Ms. Neely's group, Parents Defending Education. They're providing parents with the tools they need and the information that they desire about how best to protect their kids from inappropriate things that they may be being taught or maybe being given at the school where they spend most of the best hours of most days of the week throughout the school year every year. Now, one of the explicit excerpts read by Mr. Eden just a few minutes ago and presented to this committee is from All Boys Aren't Blue, a book available without restriction in at least one Utah junior high school, attended by children ages 13 to 15, and at least 5 Utah high schools. In 3 Utah high schools, the book was available to children over 16. Now, remember, from what was shared with us from Mr. Eden, this book has some really graphic, sexually explicit stuff. This is pornographic. This is obscene. It's certainly not appropriate for children, and it is, no matter what else you think about it, it is something that is sexual in nature. And I really do think very few, if any, American could reasonably disagree with the statement that parents have an interest in what their children are taught when it comes to sex. And so, the moment parents take reasonable steps to protect their children, and lawmakers honor those efforts to protect their children from exposure, then all of a sudden we've got a problem. And then the left and Vice President Harris cry book ban, even though all of these books are still available. You can still buy them, all of them. On Amazon, you can still buy them, all of them, all over the place. You can't, by the way, buy Ryan T. Anderson's book, When Harry Became Sally, on Amazon. That's been taken down from Amazon. But the point is this is not a ban. This is about schools deciding what's appropriate for school children. And sexually explicit, obscene, pornographic material isn't appropriate, and many parents are legitimately concerned about that. So I'm concerned about this in a variety of respects, and I'd just like to ask the question, Mr. Eden, is placing common sense age restrictions on pornographic content or removing sexually explicit books from school curriculum and school libraries, is that book banning? And does that carry any ramifications for what we would talk about in terms of the First Amendment, in terms of book banning in the First Amendment sense?
No, sir. No.
It does not. And why is that? Why is that not book banning? Why does that not offend the First Amendment in any way, shape, or form?
It's a question of community curation, and no student is actually blocked from acquiring the book in a broader sense.
So if you're providing content to a child, if spoken to a child by you, by the school, if that would constitute, in some jurisdictions, in some circumstances, a crime or a tort, you've got a problem. These school districts are acting in response to legitimate parental concerns. They should be removing these. Shame on them if they don't, and shame on those who want to groom children sexually. Thank you.
Senator Booker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd love to pick up.
And he got that motherfucker that time, got daggone. I don't know what these people are thinking, man. It's like, how much extra are you getting paid to push this crap on other people's kids? And I guarantee your kid goes to a goddamn private school. This crap is ridiculous, man. It's crap is ridiculous.
Exactly where my friend Mike Lee left off by reaffirming, I think the agreement, a bipartisan agreement, is that there's no one in this committee that believes that children should have access to materials that are inappropriate for their age. There's no one that believes that children should have access to inappropriate pornographic materials. This to me is about something deeper that's going on in the American culture right now that is really troubling. And that's why I want to pick up where he talked about what's going on in our schools. I actually agree with Ranking Member Graham that I don't see much Congress can do. We will make no laws addressing this. But I do think it's important that we hold a committee like this to talk to these larger issues. We have a country right now that is based in the ideals of a commitment to one another. We weren't founded on sameness, same religion, same ethnicity. We were founded on big principles of democratic ideals. And in a diverse democracy, it is so necessary that we know each other, that we see each other, that we understand each other. That's what makes us stronger. And in many ways, our schools become areas, especially the ideals of public schools, where diverse people come together for an education. I am suspect of these books being taken out of libraries and schools because I started seeing books that had been there not just for years, but for decades, literally generations, 25, 30, 40-year-old books on shelves suddenly being taken off. Stunned that there were books that were important to me when I was growing up. My parents in 1969 had to fight a court case, had to go to do legal fights to get into the town I grew up in. We were the first black family ever to move in. They had to get a white couple to pose as them to buy the home to move into the community. As I grew up, as my father used to call us, 4 raisins in a tub of sweet vanilla ice cream. And for me, finding certain books on my library shelf that not only gave me an affirmation, but a celebration that expanded my understanding of history, they were anchors to me, lifelines in some ways. And at a time that I was forming my self-concept and my sense of self-worth, these were the books that became the foundation of who I am, some of the greatest works of American literature. And so when I see books by some of the greatest authors, I see Frederick Douglass there, being taken off the shelf, that's when I begin to worry that we're falling into this trap where we are failing to do what is necessary in a democracy, was to create public forums, educational pathways that engender empathy and understanding, that engender deep knowledge, that engender the kind of sentiment that is necessary for democratic democracies to exist. Not a culture of contempt for one another, but a deeper culture of understanding. Now, I had conversations with my parents.
Don't trust him because he ain't got no mustache. I'm just saying.
As I got older and more sophisticated, like, wow, you brought up 2 black boys in a predominantly white community. What were you thinking then? And we talked about a lot of the books that we read at home and read at school. And she would laugh at me right now and say, of course, I could have bought you those books if they were removed from the library. But what was important to have them in the library wasn't for you, it was for your peers, for them to have access. I remember the power of reading Invisible Man in my high school English class and the impact it had on my peers. I had the most nurturing, positive community to grow up in, but to hear what they experienced, expanding their understanding. I remember when I was a college student, counseling on a suicide crisis hotline to LGBTQ youth coming out who were considering suicide. and the power of just knowing they weren't alone, that there are other people sharing that experience. And so a lot is talked about today, but there are deeper issues of what kind of culture are we going to promote in our country? One of compassion, of empathy, of understanding, or one that is going to continue this false narrative of us versus them? Professor Knox, in the remaining seconds that I have, I actually think there's a problem when we are attacking our own history and trying to Disneyify it, as opposed to celebrating what was a rough, difficult, uncomfortable, messy American history. That what makes us even greater is the fact that we had a history that we had to overcome, but that there is some negativity when young people are learning a history that is bereft of the complications and the difficulties of race issues, of gender issues, of LGBTQ issues. Is there a danger in giving people a sanitized version of American history?
Absolutely, there is. It is important that we know the truth of our history. There was a time when I would not have been able to sit here in this hearing to speak to this committee. We've grown from that, but it is important that people know that we have a history of trauma in our country that we have overcome for some people, but we gain nothing by not telling our children the truth of genocide and slavery and Jim Crow. We gain nothing if we don't tell people the truth about that history. And this is one concern I have about many of the books that are being challenged right now, is that people want to sanitize this history and say, well, it was all in the past, or even if it was all in the past, to discuss. It may be painful, but it is still the truth, and it must be said. It is important to be citizens of this great country, that we know where we came from, so we can make the world better as we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That we had to overcome, but that there is some negativity when young people are learning a history that
I had missed a little bit. I had to come back there. Need my Bluetooth headphones on.
And so a lot is talked about today, but there are deeper issues of what kind of culture are we going to promote in our country? One of compassion, of empathy, of understanding, or one that is going to continue this false narrative of us versus them?
Is this Cory? Is this dude back? Yeah, you the dude, Cory Booker. Yeah, shut the fuck up. Speak up for your damn culture. You speaking up for goddamn homosexuality in the goddamn schools. When have you spoke up for what you call it, unless it's going to benefit goddamn some agenda of y'all's? Man, you people are the ones who's making me sick. Just looking at you. You're too yellow in the first place. Goddamn. Who your mama?
Professor Knox, in the remaining seconds that I have, I actually think there's a problem when we are attacking our own history and trying to Disneyify it, as opposed to celebrating what was a rough, difficult, uncomfortable, messy American history. That what makes us...
When has any of this had to do anything with our history? Stop trying to blend this crap in with homosexuality, because that's exactly what you're trying to do right now. Funny looking here.
Even greater is the fact that we had a history that we had to overcome, but that there is some negativity when young people are learning a history that is bereft of the complications and the difficulties of race issues, of gender issues, of LGBTQ issues.
What do race issues have anything to do with gender issues? You have to listen to these people very close, because a lot of folks support this dude and shit, but they talk fast. Well, they tried to talk fast, and I got you speeded up, and I still caught you trying to slide all this crap in together with goddamn culture. This has nothing to do with culture. It has something to do with their culture and their self-esteem. Got daggone and whatever else is wrong with them. I don't know what the hell.
Is there a danger in giving people a sanitized version of American history?
Absolutely, there is. It is important that we know the truth of our history. There was a time when I would not have been able to sit here in this hearing to speak to this.
This is when they say everybody who's your skin color ain't your family. You know what I'm saying? Because they feel that it's all right to mingle these two together. Even the white person sitting beside you is looking at you funny. You look like a dummy. You could have a whole separate hearing about our freaking culture. You decide to bring up our culture with this bull crap and try to merge them together again. Not just today or the day this happened. They tried to do this shit before. These kind of people are disgusting, man. And I ain't even religious. So you got a cross on your damn chest and you sitting up here saying this crap. They want the black experience and black culture to be so fucking tied into fucking gender and homosexuality. We ain't the ones with goddamn statues with male penises and shit all out in the fucking open looking like little shriveled up damn Vienna sausages and shit. You know what I'm saying? We ain't the ones who got all this shit. So stop trying to put all that stuff in our history and our culture. I'm just saying that.
Committee. We've grown from that, but it is important that people know that we have a history of trauma in our country that we have overcome for some people, but we gain nothing by not telling our children the truth. We have a history of trauma in our country that we have overcome for some people, but
who the fuck is some people? The some people are people who look just like you. You want to sit there and fucking look fat and oppressed, goddammit, because that's what you do is just sit back and eat and want to feel fucking oppressed like somebody's holding you back. Them goddamn donuts is holding you back. Them fucking goddamn honey buns is holding you back. Them big ass meals is holding you back. You ain't doing nothing but sitting here running your motherfucking mouth. Your mouth probably goddamn, got a lot of weight loss, a lot of calories burned and shit. But goddamn, that's about it. But I'm not trying to get going. I'm trying not to get going. This is just the first one back, first Senate meeting back. You know what I'm saying? They've been on vacation all month and shit, so they left me kind of wound up and shit, man, because it wasn't nothing to really report on. It was hard to find shit, I would say. You know what I'm saying? I could have went back and grabbed some old ones. There's still some ones I wanted to do about Washington, D.C. and shit, man, back from the 4th of July. So all that stuff's still in the cut. But there you go. But yes, people are trying to move the fuck on. We learn from the experience and we keep fucking moving on. You think 150 years from now we still should be sitting around talking about we fucking oppressed? We just had a 60th year anniversary and shit just passed through. You don't think we haven't grown since then? Yeah, some shit still fucked up. But damn. As bad as it was 60 years ago. These kind of people are trying to keep us here and then keep us 100 years on top of that to take us back to goddamn the 1860s and shit. The way they keep talking.
We gain nothing by not telling our children the truth of genocide, and slavery, and Jim Crow. We gain nothing if we don't tell people the truth about that history. And this is one concern I have about many of the books that are being...
The books never had real shit in it in the first place. I know what I know because I went and did other research outside of what the bases they gave us. That's what you have to do. Stop trying to put all the pressure in fucking school. We just know we don't want homosexuality in the goddamn school. Yeah, they should teach more black history and shit, but that should be another whole hearing. Stop trying to tie this in with that what is this? This AP curriculum and all this bullshit. Stop doing all that shit, man. You're doing too much. You need a goddamn razor line. Googly moogly.
Challenged right now is that people want to sanitize this history and say, well, it was all in the past, or even if it was all in the past, it's too painful to discuss. It may...
Too painful about what? It's not too painful to discuss. It happened. You know what I'm saying? The hell? You trying to make us into those people across the water that you can't even mention nothing about them? We're not them motherfuckers. We staying strong. We've been standing strong. We ain't been crying about shit. And them motherfuckers get reparations. And they still fucking crying. I'm just saying. Then end with something that you can agree with. To clean up all the bullshit they said in between. I ain't getting fooled by that shit. A couple years ago, I used to get fooled by that shit. You know what I'm saying? Nah, man, you gotta listen to these people in detail when they talk. Because a lot of them just be talking out their fucking ass, man. They just using words.
I may have to leave and recess for a few minutes, but Senator from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of you for being here
there two parts to
today.
this?
And as I've listened to your testimony and your answers to questions, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that has been of concern to me today is that there is apparent your concern or outrage over some of the books and things that are being banned or omitted or disallowed, but there has been nothing said about what big tech platforms or major publishers are doing by banning or refusing to work with conservative authors. And that is a troubling trend that I have seen. I have heard from Tennesseans about some companies that are more left-leaning or are liberal media companies, and they are choosing to disallow publications. You've had something with Vice President Pence. You've had something with Justice Barrett. But that is not brought in to this hearing. And there are two discussions that ought to be taking place because we do have very talented people.
It looked like she had a wild night. Look at her hair. Good googly moogly. What was you doing before the damn meeting? Go check her office.
That are being blocked out of that publishing and that distribution network. So that is of concern to me. Ms. Neely, in your testimony, you did talk a little bit about some of the egregious attempts that the left has made to silence anyone that doesn't agree with them, to remove publishing deals, to disallow distribution on platforms. So I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit more about that and the effect that that has. Your microphone.
Parents are being intimidated, challenged, and canceled for speaking up. And I think, aside from the big tech platforms, what also concerns me is the state action that is being taken. You know, as much as we talk about this, the districts that might be discussing what a book can or can't be in a school district, I think it's also worth discussing the local control, the issue that Mr. Giannoulis mentioned, about districts that are actually removing control from families. In Montgomery County, Maryland, in Dearborn, Michigan, there have been countless Muslim families that have spoken up because they want the right to opt their children out of sexually explicit lesson plans. They are being denied that opportunity. They are being forced to have their children read books, again, that are graphic, that are sexual. And these are books that not only maybe aren't relevant to the curriculum, but that don't comport with their family values. Those decisions.
Hold on, time out. So they just not in the library. They forcing these kids to read the books? Is that what she just said?
Families. In Montgomery County, Maryland, in Dearborn, Michigan, there have been countless Muslim families that have spoken up because they want the right to opt their children out of sexually explicit lesson plans. They are being denied that opportunity.
So you mean to tell me these motherfuckers got lesson plans and shit about this shit? And look at that big goofy goddamn water balloon sitting next to her, looking with a straight fucking face like, you're okay with this? Whoever family member that is, they don't need to bring them to, don't let them come to no more cookouts. Salute, Cherokee. What's going on, bro? Thank you for joining me tonight. But man, this is some bullshit right here, man. So now they have homosexuality lessons in the schools, and it ain't the books. It took them almost 2 hours to get to that. I'm thinking we just talking about a library, but they talking about a whole goddamn plan. A lesson. How you gonna take that homework home? I mean, don't ask me. I ain't never really take homework home, but don't tell nobody else that. But how is other people gonna take that shit home? You got them going home reading on fucking sucking dildos and putting in butt plugs and shit, got daggone, when we think they're in there supposed to be doing social studies and math? So always check your kids' work. Check your kids' work. Make sure you're seeing all the work, because I'm hearing a lot of these teachers tell these students, don't show this to your parents and all kind of bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I ain't lying, Cherokee. What is homework, man? I used to come home empty-handed every day. It ain't funny, but you know what I'm saying? Boy, the mid-90s, boy, was a time, boy. Gosh almighty. But this is crazy right here. This is nothing like how when we went to school, man. You learned about sex ed starting in the 5th grade, and then they take 9 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Or yeah, I think they take 9 weeks or maybe a half a semester. You know what I'm saying? Out of your physical education. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing like what they doing here. A whole fucking lesson. And even in sex ed, we wasn't even learning about nothing exciting. They taught you all about the goddamn cooties and shit. They ain't teach you about no goddamn smacking cheeks and shit. And sucking dildos. Man, that black woman beside her should be ashamed of herself. Don't allow her at no more cookouts, man. She don't need none anyway.
Opportunity. They are being forced to have their children read books, again, that are graphic, that are sexual. And these are books that not only maybe aren't relevant to the curriculum, but that don't comport with their family values. Those decisions are being taken away by localities. In some states, there are efforts by state actors, by the states themselves as well. This is something that parents are concerned with. And so to conflate that issue, that I don't want my child to be forced to read something with a book that is being burned in Nazi Germany, is disingenuous and false.
Well, parental rights are something we hear a lot about in Tennessee, and I think we are just very fortunate to have some really wonderful, dedicated teachers who have worked with parents and have allowed parents to be involved in a child's education. I think it's important that parents have the ability to participate and to have that say. So tell me what you're hearing from parents when it comes to directing the children's education and what they are hearing. You've spoken about a couple of things. What are they hearing when it comes to blocking some of this sexually explicit or pornographic material?
One problem they have is simply gaining access to know what their child is learning at all. Parents are being forced on a regular basis to file public records requests, and when they file those records requests, they are being charged hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Recently from Fairfax County, Virginia, I received a FOIA estimate of $35,000 to gain access to materials. That is appalling. That is meant to discourage and chill parental involvement and engagement in these issues. It is meant to tell families, go away, you're not welcome.
Wow. Just to find out what the kids' curriculum is, you have to pay how much?
Is simply gaining access to know what their child is learning at all. Parents are being forced on a regular basis to file public records requests, and when they file those records requests, they are being charged hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Recently from Fairfax County, Virginia, I received a FOIA estimate of $35,000 to gain access to materials. That is appalling. That is meant to discourage and chill parental involvement and engagement in these issues. It is meant to tell families, go away, you're not welcome here. The experts know what they're doing. We saw the Democrats.
I just think the people who are so damn proud of putting Joe Biden in fucking office need to go get his ass out. I'm just saying. Go get all those motherfuckers that was twerking and shit in front of the goddamn White House because they got Trump out and shit. Go get them motherfuckers to go get Joe Biden up out of that motherfucking shit. They did a disgusting job at picking somebody in this administration to allow all this bullshit to goddamn. We don't told them this was gonna fucking happen. That shit is ridiculous, man. Let's hurry up and get through this, man. I gotta go make me something to eat.
Democrat Party of Michigan put a Facebook post out saying the purpose of public
make me something to eat, and I ain't sharing with that big ass girl sitting next to her.
Education is not to teach; it's to teach children what society needs them to know. Implicit in that is that they know better than we do, than families do, what society needs them to know. That is an insult. It is a slap in the face to families, and that is something that families will continue to fight against.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. I think it's safe to say that all of you are here today because you are opposed to government censorship. Is that right? Have I got that broadly correct? Okay, we can agree on that much. Book banning is a form of government censorship. Is that broadly speaking correct? Professor Knox, you're an expert in this. Let me just ask you. Book banning is a problem under the First Amendment because it's the government telling private individuals, authors, what have you, what they can and cannot write, telling the public what they can and cannot read. Is that broadly speaking correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So now what if the books were digital only? Could the government ban them then? So no hard copies, no physical copies, it's just digital books. Could the government engage in book banning then under the First Amendment? No problem.
No, that's about a format of the particular book, and that really doesn't matter when it comes to whether or not government is banning a book.
Okay, what if the government made a list of authors whose books it wanted banned, and also went to all of the publishing houses in America, the government did, and said, do not publish the books by any of these authors or we will punish you? Is that a problem with the First Amendment?
My hope is that the government would not be involved in the decisions of a private company.
Good. I would hope so too, but apparently that is not the case in the United States of America today under this administration, because the hypotheticals I've just given you aren't hypotheticals at all. They've happened, and we know that they are happening. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals just ruled in a case, Missouri versus Biden. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. It's going to go down, I think, as a landmark case in the worst possible way in First Amendment law, because what the Court of Appeals found is that the White House, not just the federal government, but the White House, actively coerced every major social media platform in America. Let me say that again. Every major social media platform in America to ban speech that the White House did not like. What are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about speech on the COVID-19 pandemic, speech on the 2022 congressional elections, speech related to mask mandates, speech related to vaccines. What did the White House do? Well, over a period of years, they met with, on a regular basis, the leaders of social media companies and demanded that the speech they did not like be taken down. They further demanded that these same social media companies amplify the White House's speech. Amazing. So take down.
Oh yeah, we will be hitting that topic real soon. We will be there real soon, man. For those people who didn't believe. Oh yeah, it's true. It's true.
Down all of this speech that we don't like, amplify our own speech. Unbelievable. What kind of speech are we talking about? Well, for example, not just public officials, but parents. Here's an example from my state, the state of Missouri. I'm reading you from the opinion here. One parent who posted on Nixdoor.com, which is a site operated by Facebook, posted an online petition to encourage his school to remain mask optional, found that his posts were removed without notifying him, and his friends never saw them. Another parent in the same school district who objected to mask mandates for school children responded to Dr. Fauci on Twitter and promptly received a warning from Twitter that his account would be banned if he did not delete the tweets criticizing Dr. Fauci's approach to mask mandates. These objections, amazingly, this censorship was taken at the direct behest of the federal government, the direct behest of the Biden administration. Professor Knox, is this a violation of the First Amendment?
Only a judge can make that determination.
And a judge has. I'm glad you said that. Multiple judges. District Court, Federal District Court said there was a direct First Amendment violation. Court of Appeals unanimously, 3-judge panel unanimously said direct First Amendment violation.
So if this is a violation of the First Amendment, why is it still going on? Why can't we talk about what we really want to talk about? Why can't I educate my people about really what's going on without getting a flag strike or whatever, or get took the fuck down? Would y'all believe they took down my CDC information on my last channel? Coming directly from their site that was on the screen, being read out on the screen, coming off their site, and they still daggone took it down and gave me a strike for it. So they didn't even agree with their own information. This is a bunch of bullshit. Everybody who's talking about real stuff is being demonetized right now. So if you're aware of these channels, please hit my community wall. All these freelancing news, solo news people, they are doing an outstanding job, and they bringing you the best news possible. They bringing you stuff better than the mainstream. I don't even look at the mainstream no more. Period. You know what I'm saying? So please go check out my wall. There's all kind of channels up there that's dropping all kind of information. You know what I'm saying? Real information. They try to use less opinion, unless the opinion is absolutely going with a real article that's on the screen that you went over with them. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't no more just playing damn 30 seconds of some shit and then put a narrative and propaganda in your head and allow you to run out here and fuck up debates and all that shit with dumbass shit that don't make no fucking sense and shit. Look, we need real information. So please hit my daggone community wall, you know what I'm saying? And subscribe to those sources. You know what I'm saying? So we can all get on the same page. If something need to be weighed out, it'll be easily to weigh out if everybody know what direction everybody's coming from. Yeah. I think I said that right. I'm ranting. I must be hungry. I need a Snickers or something. The hell?
Violation. I can't think of another time in American history when the President of the United States, and I say that advisedly because the record reflects that White House officials were sending emails and communications to these companies saying that the President himself wanted the censorship. So you've got the government doing exactly what Professor Knox said is not permitted under the First Amendment, directly coercing the speech of private parties, and not just one or two authors, but parents all across the country. Unprecedented in the history of this nation. So I'm glad we're having this hearing today. I hope that we will have more like it to expose the censorship happening at the highest levels of our government. Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that this opinion, this judgment by the Fifth Circuit, Missouri versus Biden, be entered into the record in full.
Without objection.
I will leave it there. I know there are other Senator Kennedys here who want to ask questions, but I just want to say for the record that this kind of censorship is un-American, it is unconstitutional, and I hope it will go down as a sad chapter in American history that we can close here and now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I confess I'm a little confused, and I appreciate the argument.
Chapter in American history that we can close here and now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Usually when John Kennedy speaks, it's going to be something funny he's going to say. I think this is one of the funniest politicians we ever have, man. Man, this dude is hilarious. Let's see where he's going to take this one at, man. This is going to be funny.
Chairman, I confess I'm a little confused, and I appreciate the argument or discussion that we've been having, but for me it's a little too conceptual, or I don't know, metaphysical or theological or whatever you want to call it. I want to try to understand what you're asking us to do. Let's take two books that have been much discussed. The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue, and I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. And I will quote from it.
And remind you, y'all can say whatever y'all want about Trump supporters. This is what the fuck y'all supporting. And that's all I have to say about that. This is what y'all sticking up for. Every time you shut that dude down, you let these people come in, steal our fucking country, steal our fucking freedoms, and this is what the fuck you supporting. But for some reason, Trump was worse than this, even though he haven't been convicted on nothing. Let this make sense, man. Let it make sense. Listen to what y'all supporting every time y'all diss a Trump supporter.
I put some lube on and got him on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote. All boys aren't blue.
Now tell me what kind of shit is that? This is we traded America for pedophilia. That's what we did. Why would you want kids reading that shit? Why would you want kids to know that shit? This is what that water balloon sitting across from him is goddamn speaking up for. And trying to blend our culture in with this crap. And it's like we already knew what this administration was, you know what I'm saying, what it's representing. And it still is like we can't say nothing. Even though you putting all our kids in jeopardy by backing and supporting this motherfucker, not hearing out both sides and truly understand what's going on. Just don't go off of one person and just because they throw up a minute video, 2-minute video and shit like that, making fun of shit. A lot of this shit is not be made fun of. A lot of this shit ain't no fucking joke. A lot of this shit is gonna fuck with people's lives and shit. This shit ain't no fucking joke. You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of bullshit they got there on. They fucking with your taxes. They taking all your fucking money. They goddamn look like they coming after the fucking kids and all kind of shit. And we supposed to just sit back, goddamn, on in which code. To me, goddamn, that's some coonery ass shit to me, goddamn it. No longer, goddamn, will a Trump supporter will be called a goddamn coon again. As long as goddamn black folks is following this fucking bullshit administration and this bullshit that they putting in the fucking kids' brain. I said I wasn't gonna go the fuck off today, goddammit. I fucking lied, goddammit. Senator Kennedy, goddamn, got me going, boy. He got me going there, boy. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. I needed that shit. Let's hear more. Yeah.
The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay? Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote.
Let's have a moment of silence and hope I don't erupt. What the fuck goddamn kind of shit is that to have in a fucking public school? But we the ones that's supposed to be wrong. We white supremacists. We all this just because we want to stand up for our country. Goddaggone. We believe in our fucking country. We can get bigger than where we are, goddaggone. And this is the bullshit you take us back to, goddamn. What kind of bullshit is this? If you don't vote for Joe, you ain't black. You voted for Joe, you black, and this is what you all representing? Fuck how you goddamn feel about it. This shit affects every fucking body. Don't give a goddamn about your fucking feelings. This is the goddamn truth sitting on the goddamn screen. Who in the fuck goddamn gonna want their kids reading this kind of shit in goddamn schools? Homeschool. Fuck their curriculum. Teach your kids the right shit. You can still teach them goddamn what the motherfuckers know in school and teach them the real fucking shit. This public school shit, goddamn, they might as well close it down. Ain't no money going towards them any fucking way. They took that money and gave it to the border jumpers. And reopened the fucking school just so they can put their heads somewhere. I ain't lying. I don't do shows on that shit. But they overlook that shit and keep goddamn nitpicking that stupid ass shit that don't make no fucking sense with no fucking evidence whatsoever. No judge can support none of the bullshit they've been calling out for the last fucking couple of years. This dude's still walking around and he's getting stronger every fucking day. But we stuck with this bullshit. And you think we want to reelect any of these motherfuckers on that day in that damn party? I wouldn't put none of them in that damn party until they clean their fucking house. Because still, even if they ain't with it, they still allowing this shit. They allowing this bullshit to go past their fucking desk, know it's part of some fucking agenda, and they let it slide any goddamn way. No matter if it's a white face, black face, Indian face, Asian face, goddamn Pakistani, whatever you want to be that's representing the goddamn DNC, goddamn, or Black Lives Matter, they Antifa, all them motherfuckers all on one goddamn side. And you know Black Lives Matter is supporting this shit just by what they took off their goddamn website. trying to cover up their Marxism and shit. Goddamn, they not even about goddamn strong black families. Even though they running around the street talking about Black Lives Matter. They can't cover that shit up. We know it was there. Goddamn, look at the people who's running the motherfucker. They ain't even in straight relationships, so all this shit is cool with them. And these are the people we supposed to be fucking supporting and all that bullshit. And mad because we ain't supporting them. Like I said, they got their ass ran out of this fucking area when they came and pulled that bullshit. We didn't even care about the situation. There won't be no race baiting going on here. And we in the fucking South. Well, I'm in the goddamn South. There was no race baiting going on here, goddamn, when they showed up. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Secretary, what are you asking us to do? Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this...
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, the words you spoke are disturbing, especially coming out of your mouth is very disturbing. But what I would also tell you that...
Where the fuck they keep getting these weak-ass men from? Y'all hear this shit?
Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this...
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, the words you spoke are disturbing, especially coming out of your mouth is very disturbing. But what I would also tell you...
What was disturbing coming out of his fucking mouth? Besides what he was reading out of those books that you're trying to keep in the fucking library.
You that we're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's
point.
What
are you advocating for?
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe, to try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these issues.
You're getting consent.
What the hell? I need to start making shorts and shit. Because a lot of this shit, man, be funny as hell. Folks need to hear this shit. For real.
Yeah. I'm not getting conceptual.
Well, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because I want to know what you're recommending. It sounds to me like what some of you are saying, the librarians should decide who gets to see that book.
I'm saying when individual parents are allowed to make a decision of where that line is, and To Kill a Mockingbird, which involves a rape scene, should that book be pulled from our libraries? I think it becomes a slippery slope.
I think To Kill a Mockingbird was not graphic detail is what he just read. And for those who haven't read that book, it's a pretty good book. Actually, it's a pretty good movie too. But it ain't as detailed as what this shit is here. And besides that, the time frame that which that book was written, I don't think society wasn't nowhere ready to put that kind of shit in no fucking book. So they ass was scared as hell to do that shit.
I think you ought to think about it a little bit more before you come here.
I've thought about
if you're going to propose something, you ought to be able, in 30 seconds, to be able to explain what you're asking us to do. Ms. Kelly, what do you understand? Well, let me skip you for a second. Mr. Cameron, tell me what you're proposing.
It's pronounced mix.
Mix? Is that how would you like me to refer to you?
Senator, your definition of sexual is synonymous with LGBTQ identity.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you to tell me you read those two excerpts.
And when the fuck did they think they get smarter than everybody else? Do they know they mixed up in the head? I mean, I'm not sure if they mixed up in the head. I'm gonna take that back. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna let Pee Wee Herman just talk.
Genderqueer.
Do you think that? Are you asking that only librarians and not parents have any say in whether minors can read those books? Is that what you're saying?
Genderqueer has never been in my school library, so it's never been banned.
Well, suppose it was. Should it be up just to the librarian, or should parents have a say?
There should be facilitation of collaboration between students.
Should parents have a say?
Parents should be working with students and educators to be making decisions, because students...
Students ain't got shit to do with it. Students are just children. They need to shut the fuck up and sit in the back seat until goddamn adults finish fucking talking. They ain't got nothing about that. They shouldn't have nothing to do about that damn decision. That's one thing. That's why your ass is screwed the fuck up now. Your parents gave you too much goddamn privilege. Now you sitting around here walking around with a goddamn yellow bow tie looking... Never mind.
And who decides ultimately, the librarian, or do you take a vote, or who takes the vote?
Book review committees in the community in my school district.
You want a committee to decide?
There are committees.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you, how?
And all of these people who speaking for this always seem like they want to fucking cry when they fucking talking. You sensitive ass fucks, goddamn. Dude, put some fucking hair on your chest. You going through puberty right there. Put some goddamn, grow some hair on your fucking chest and speak the fuck up. All this wimpy ass shit you talking.
How do we decide whether the two?
Let me take that back. I don't even know if that's a dude or he, she, or goddamn whatever the fuck he wants to be. He, she wants to be called or whatever. I don't know what they is. Goddamn. I know the other two is a man and a woman, but I don't know.
Two books that I just referenced should be available in the library. What would you, if you were running things, what would you do?
All Boys Aren't Blue, the scene you mentioned, is about sexual abuse.
I know what it's about.
It's not
what
erotic.
would you do in terms of making the book?
Look at the dude's face when he say this shit. All of these motherfuckers, even the dude with the blue suit on, the blue tie, look like they want to fucking cry every time they fucking talk. Eyes getting all glassy and shit, like they cutting onions and shit.
What would you, if you were running things, what would you do?
All Boys Aren't Blue, the scene you mentioned, is about sexual abuse.
I know what it's about.
James, you think that's a girl for real? I thought it was a boy. Why would they want to go around and keep people confused of what you are and then get mad when you call them something else? Like, boy, I don't understand these folks. There's enough land in the Midwest and shit, man. They can go start their own community and live how the fuck they want to live. Stop forcing that shit on all our goddamn people. Don't matter the culture of the people. Stop forcing that shit on the public. We don't want that shit around us. Not saying that we don't want you around, but stop forcing all this extra bullshit. You go learn about yourself amongst yourself. If some people on, if the communities and people want to damn go know about it, they will go find it. Stop trying to push this shit on goddamn everybody and shit. This shit's getting worse. And then they want to know why the goddamn go so-called the most attacked people and shit, because nobody ain't trying to hear this shit. Not saying it's right to attack them and shit, but after a while, you gonna end up punching somebody in the face and keep coming out of their mouth with dumb shit. And then they get all into their fucking emotions, and just so happen the other person with emotions is more physical. And your ass get smacked the fuck up and get your bow tie took. I'm just saying.
It's not
What
erotic.
would you do in terms of making the books available? Would you say anybody can see them, or they have to be in a special session?
Students who do not read books like All Boys Aren't Blue cannot learn what is appropriate.
I understand that.
They cannot learn.
I understand, but none of you want to.
So all boys ain't blue is supposed to be appropriate? Who the fuck? Your parents should be locked in jail if they allowing you to be, if they allow this to happen to you. I mean, for real. Shouldn't there be a law against this shit? And these are supposed to be our future leaders? I never would have seen this coming here. The ones I knew when I was coming up in school, man, they was cool with everybody. They know we didn't play that shit. They didn't give a damn. They just fit it right on in, goddamn, as they was. They didn't do nothing extra and nothing of that shit. We just knew they was a little bit soft a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We ain't mess with them, and nobody was gonna mess with them once you down. That's how it goes down, goddamn. I don't know about this shit. What the fuck is this?
Answer my question. You come here and you say censorship is bad, and of course it's bad. But the obvious response is, okay, you heard the books we're talking about. Okay, we're not talking about Catcher in the Rye. So tell me what you want, who gets to decide. And all I've heard is the librarians. And parents have nothing to do with it. And if that's your response, what planet did you just parachute in from?
Parents, Senator.
Or what country, more appropriately? This is not China.
Parents, Senator, with all due respect, parents absolutely have a say. My parents were immigrants, came to this country. We never checked out books without our parents seeing what books we were reading. They encouraged us to read
Mr.
books.
Secretary, I understand this is...
I'm tired of all these motherfuckers keep using all that shit too. My parents was an immigrant, so everybody's parents was a fucking immigrant. How old are you? When did they come over? When did they come over? So you come into this country and then you try to make this country like the last country you fucking left, or wherever the fuck you came from, because you came here for a fucking reason. Whether you was escaping, god daggone, it wasn't a work, god daggone, there's a dictatorship going on, anything along that line. So what made you want to come here and then goddamn set up things the same way as where you fucking left from? When you was coming here to be fucking free. How did that make sense? For any of them motherfuckers that got daggone to do any of this shit. I'm just saying. This is a good warm-up right here, man, because this is the first one back, by the way, got daggone. I said that before, got daggone. So, I'm just firing up the rockets and shit, man. They've been down for a month.
It's good for your politics back home.
It's got nothing to do with my politics. My bill is passed. My bill is
It has
passed.
everything to do with your politics.
I'm here to.
But you came here with a problem, and I'm trying to understand the solution, and you don't have one.
We solved the solution.
Other than to tell us that we don't agree with you, you're on the wrong. We'll be on the wrong side of history.
We solved the problem in Illinois. We fixed it because we.
Well, there are others you could work on.
Well, that's why I'm
out
here
of
to
time.
help.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To help other states make these decisions.
Yeah, Kennedy didn't say nothing smart this time around, but if you're interested in knowing what I'm talking about, go check out Senator Kennedy. Matter of fact, I think he has a greatest hits video out of some of the craziest sayings, man, from the news and from these meetings and stuff, man, that have you laughing for hours and shit just thinking about it and shit. So go check out Senator Kennedy. He's senator from Louisiana, by the way.
At this point, there are no senators here who have not been recognized, and no. I'm sure you do. I appreciate all our witnesses appearing before the committee today, and I know that all my colleagues on the committee want our children to have access to books that are appropriate for their age. There are some serious disagreements, however, about what content is objectionable, that is inevitable, and healthy for a democracy. We need to work together as a country to try to create clear standards for access to books so that no one individual can cause a book to be banned for an entire community. I'm proud of my home state, Secretary Janulius, for leading the effort to push back against book bans, and I hope other states will follow your example. Libraries and the treasured books within them are just too important to allow this rise in censorship to continue any longer. Let's come together to protect the freedom to read and learn and stand up against book banning wherever it occurs. The record for today's hearing will remain open for 1 week. The hearing.
Alrighty, there we go, right there. There we go. Another one done. Let's see, let me get off this for it. Acts up, stupid. Yeah, that was book banning, censorship. I think it might be a part 2 to that coming up. I don't think it was the day. I was doing a lot of a lot of little small videos and stuff I'm about to start dropping out and stuff. So, yeah, this was very interesting. I did not know that this was in the lesson plans, not just the books. There's a lot to worry about. We need to get to a lot of these school board meetings, man. There's some parents out there that need some assistance for. They need to get these folks out of here. We pay, your tax money pay for these people on these school boards, and it seems like they're abusing it. They running certain agendas. They shutting parents out. Matter of fact, hold on. Do I have that set up? Damn, I closed that. Which part? I closed it down. I could possibly have a little bit more. I'm trying to go make my beef stir fry here, got daggone. But I don't think I'm gonna get it done before the next show. But it's taking so long. Seems like when you're trying to do things fast, that's when your computer want to move slow. Wait for this. I want to thank everybody who came out and joined the show today. You know what I'm saying? Miss Liz, Leah, James Wilson, DJ 699999. You know what I'm saying? Candy, D-Sizzle, Mr. Crystal. I know he's still up in the bushes, boy. He love these kind of things right here. Yeah, buddy, they back, man. They back. They back, and I get to cut up again. I get to cut up and laugh at these fools. No, I did not save it. I did not save it. So I'm not going to pull that up. I'll say that for another show. But I think it was something off I did before where the young 14-year-old was speaking in front of the school board, and they had got up and walked out. She had a round 2. and she ate them alive, boy. That crap was funny, boy. It's like these people are getting beat up by 14-year-olds at these meetings and shit. You know what I'm saying? And they out there making decisions and shit for our children, and they can't even handle the damn. It seems like the children are smarter than them. The children are talking about taking their positions. That's the funny part. They want to sit on the school boards. You know what I'm saying? So man, I mean, this sounds wild. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a whole lot more coming up off of this. This was just yesterday's as I saw them start to make a comeback with the Congress and Senate meetings. I got a few lined up and stuff. I'm gonna start hitting them. I might be back later on tonight or mid morning, I would say. You know what I'm saying? Get a jump start on everybody else. Which called again, shout out to everybody who came through. Can't handle the truth. Forever Lisa. Maybe still in the bushes listening on the way to work or at work. Miss Daly, Cherokee the Boss. What was I did say Miss Liz, Sirius S. We building over here. Money Boy Trey. Well, it's too many of y'all people. Goddamn it, shit. Y'all know what I mean. Thank y'all for supporting content that matters. Remember to smash the like button. You know what I'm saying? Share this out. You know what I'm saying? Always share out the important information. You know, got to get this stuff out there so people can be heard, so we can have better conversations, you know what I'm saying, on better shows. Well, I said that backwards. But I'm hungry. Y'all know what the hell I'm saying. God dang 'em. But with that being said, I hope everybody else enjoyed their night, and get yourself ready for the next show, which I think Leah said was Money Boy Trey and 8:10 or so. Which called more than likely we about to cut up. Boy, he on this early. So with that being said, you want to support the channel, you know what I'm saying? $ Real Mad TV. Let's support more content that matters, you know what I'm saying? Inspire your boy to do a whole lot more, you know. Which I'm about to do a whole lot more. I'm about to get on y'all nerves. I'm gonna be live so much. But with that being said, everybody enjoy their night. And let me set up the video. Make sure it's all right. Make sure the outlet is all right. And peace.